Participating in the virtual competition, the formidable man with the summoner ID, Jiang, confidently grabbed his shining sword and prepared for the upcoming battle. Pursuing his opponents in the digital world, he ordered them to surrender, emphasizing his superiority as the only one around. However, instead of capitulating, his opponents fled for their lives. In an effort to quickly end the game battle, he skillfully used the unbreakable five blood technique, unleashing its power to destroy all opponents. Despite the victory, he was overcome with a feeling of discontent, as the lack of a serious challenge left him with an overwhelming feeling of loneliness as he sat in the chair in his room in front of the gaming computer. After his triumph, he surveyed his audience, seeking confirmation of the spectacle he had created in the game. He wanted them to tell him what they thought of the show. As he watched the number of viewers grow on his laptop, he was pleasantly surprised, as the unexpected influx of 37 viewers made him feel elated because he had never had so many viewers before. Taking advantage of this unexpected opportunity, he made a solemn declaration of innocence, vowing never to resort to hacking again, citing the relics of his grandfather for added emphasis. Contrary to his expectations, after his announcement, viewership dropped to 0. Faced with this failure, he decided to abandon the attempt, realizing the futility of convincing anyone of his honesty. To add to his woes, his shop had been languishing without customers all morning, and his savings were slowly dwindling with each passing day. Glancing at the portrait below, depicting him as a champion of the University Gaming League, he reflected on his past achievements. He had once been very happy and famous, but when he looked at his portrait, there was no trace of joy on his face. Reflecting on past events, he couldn't help but ponder the irony that if he hadn't been set up earlier, his current circumstances might have been completely different. He might still be popular and rich, but now everything is completely different. Initially recruited as a gaming virtuoso at the university, he received numerous accolades and enjoyed his success. People envied his skills, but he had no idea it would spiral out of control and tarnish his image. However, after his triumphant victory, a vile setup irreversibly changed the trajectory of his life. His victory as a popular gamer was celebrated, but not everyone was happy with it, because he was set up. Suspecting jealousy as the motive, he believed that a man with evil intentions had received a reward for tarnishing his once impeccable reputation. An official investigation accused him of cheating and found that he had installed an external program on his computer. This claim is categorically rejected as unrelated to his actions, installed by someone else during the game. Expelled from the gaming community, he became an object of ridicule and scorn, enduring ridicule and mockery, forcing him to withdraw. No matter how hard he tried to convince people he didn't do it, no one believed him. Concurrent with these turbulent events, the death of his grandfather forced him to reunite with his grandmother, which prompted him to voluntarily abandon his academic career and return to his small hometown. Having inherited the family shop left by his grandparents, he retreated from the complexities of good and evil, seeking solace in the familiar surroundings of his upbringing. Consequently, he found himself far removed from the former spheres of fame and fortune that had defined his previous life. Lost in introspection, his thoughts were suddenly interrupted when an unknown person slammed his hand hard on the table in his shop. Pivoting on his heel, he turned around and asked the unsuspecting man if they had any inclinations toward purchasing goods. However, his attention was suddenly diverted when he saw the man slam his hand down on the unforgiving surface of the table with a rather forceful motion. The inquisitive man, sensing a lapse in the shopkeeper's memory, ventured to ask whether there had been an oversight, emphasizing that the purpose of the visit was not to conduct any commercial transactions. Jiang found himself caught in a web of confusion, prompting him to seek clarification regarding the commitment he had supposedly made. Subsequently, a collective demand arose for him to fulfill the commitment he had supposedly made: the transfer of protection money, a promise he was now obligated to fulfill. As the peculiar spectacle unfolded before their eyes, an air of dissatisfaction permeated the atmosphere, forcing the trio to ask a question that would call into question his sincerity. Did he harbor any intention of breaking his word? In the maze of his own thoughts, Jiang found himself absent-mindedly and perplexedly scratching his chin. Slowly, the fog of memories cleared, and it became clear that these three people had crossed paths with him in the digital world, in an internet cafe, begging him for something. Unfortunately, caught up in the captivating game, he impulsively agreed. Summing up his reaction, the trio, hinting at a possible escape, questioned him about his willingness to flee. Revealing the results of their investigations, they revealed his identity: Jiang. An ominous warning hung in the air. If the protection fee remained unpaid, the consequences would be dire. Overcome with anger, Jiang furiously demanded an explanation, his face awash with rage. The trio's accusing fingers pointed to a wall adorned with portraits of his late grandparents. Revelations followed. They were gone, and the trio claimed to have already known the late couple. A sneer danced across their faces as they revealed the origins of the shop once owned by the now-deceased elderly couple. In a state of disbelief, Jiang struggled with the sudden revelation. His teeth clenched, indicating his inner turmoil. Fueled by a combustible mixture of emotions, he impulsively leaped over the table from the opposite end, the manifestation of his anger now materializing within the confines of the store. Grabbing one of the three by the collar, he angrily questioned them, challenging them to test his mettle. In response, he was mockingly labeled a weak computer geek. A powerful kick to Jiang Yaya's chest sent him writhing in agony, the physical pain now mixed with the turbulent emotions that surged within him. The necklace adorning his neck, a symbol of some sentimental significance, gave way under the aggressive kick, its binding snapping as it fell to the ground. The triumvirate, now united in their malicious intent, surrounded him with jeers and laughter, the impact of his back against a crate containing a selection of goods for sale adding a cacophony of confusion to the tense atmosphere. Recalling their previous encounter with the elderly man who stubbornly refused to pay, the trio relished the memory, finding satisfaction in teaching the lesson. Vivid memories of his grandparents' smiling faces depicted on the wall as portraits fueled the cauldron of anger inside Jiang Yayi, who had never expected such a blatant insult. The trio's intentions took an unexpected turn, dramatically changing their approach. Instead of persisting in seeking monetary compensation, they suddenly abandoned this pursuit. In an unforeseen turn of events, they now declared a different goal, seizing his property. This radical shift occurred because they believed their demands were being delayed. Amid this shifting dynamic, a revelation occurred, like a sudden and unexpected blossoming. One of the men, with a keen eye, noticed an object lying on the floor. This discovery immediately redirected his attention, forcing him to focus on the mysterious object that had captured his interest. With particular care, he picked up the fallen necklace, an artifact resembling a coin, its aesthetics enhanced by the rope attached to it. Contemplating its potential antiquity, he wondered if it had any monetary value. Watching this unfolding drama, Jiang Yayi quickly rose from his sitting position, spurred into action by the mere sight of the necklace the inquisitive man was holding. As tensions escalated, Jiang Yayi shouted at the men who had absconded with his precious possessions, passionately and unequivocally demanding their return. He vehemently informed them that the necklace was an integral part of his personal belongings, emphasizing that it was unequivocally his. Determined to recover the stolen necklace, he took drastic action by placing his hands on the menacing statue within his shop, intending to use it as a symbolic and practical tool of resistance in the inevitable confrontation. The ensuing altercation unfolded as he held the statue, delivering a decisive blow to the skull of one of his opponents, causing the necklace to inadvertently slip from the attacker's clutches. Showing quick reflexes, Jiang Yayi readily extended his hand, successfully intercepting the trajectory of the descending necklace just moments before it could make a catastrophic impact with the ground below, safely sheltering it under the cover of his outstretched palm. The unfolding scene witnessed the concerned reactions of onlookers as they rushed to their boss, who bore the brunt of the physical confrontation, pleading with him to inquire about his well-being. Meanwhile, Jiang Yayi remained stoically nearby, the crimson stream of blood flowing from the wound on his forehead, a stark contrast to his intense gaze fixed on the necklace he had found. After the argument, the boss, nursing his injuries and holding a grudge, harshly criticized Jiang Yayi and ordered his associates to retaliate. Despite his visible wounds, the boss continued to clearly formulate his orders, the pain etched on his face underscoring his resolve. Responding to the boss's command, one of the top enforcers pulled out a knife, assumed a threatening posture, and moved menacingly toward Jiang Yayi, signaling the beginning of a new stage of confrontation. The ensuing skirmish witnessed the assailants' concerted efforts, subjecting Jiang Yayi to a merciless barrage of blows, devoid of any semblance of mercy. Defenseless amidst their onslaught, Jiang Yayi stoically endured the physical toll of the orchestrated assault. Succumbing to overwhelming pain, Jiang Yayi was forced to kneel. However, in a demonstrative display of fortitude, he delivered a poignant statement, asserting that despite his physical adversity, he stood steadfast as a bastion of honor for his Kang family, maintaining an unwavering grip on the recovered necklace. The narrative took an unexpected turn when a sudden drop of Jiang Yaya's own blood fell onto the surface of the tightly clasped necklace, causing a heavenly glow to emanate from its core. As if lost in a surreal reverie, Jiang Yayi found himself captivated by the luminous spectacle unfolding before him, torn between awe and confusion as the coin necklace emitted an unearthly glow. casting an otherworldly radiance in its immediate vicinity. Overwhelmed by the brightness of the radiance, Jiang decided to shield his eyes, closing them, but he kept the shining necklace held in his palm, becoming the unwitting epicenter of a phenomenon that defied understanding. The trio's sudden cessation of physical assault was caused by their collective amazement at the inexplicable million-challenge spectacle unfolding before them. Looking at Jiang, bathed in the radiant light emanating from the coin necklace, they were faced with profound questions about the source and nature of the luminous phenomenon. The necklace's transformative power became even more pronounced as it continued to shine with a dazzling brilliance, extending its luminous tendrils upward and taking on mysterious forms that left spectators paralyzed in a state of disbelief and disbelief. In a moment of revelation, Jiang, with unwavering determination, grasped the shining necklace and realized that the course of his destiny had irrevocably changed, declaring himself the Lord of the world, thus cementing his newfound invincibility and deterring anyone from daring to harm him in the future. Against the bright daylight, the glowing illumination continued, casting an unearthly radiance that rendered the three attackers motionless, their faces a mixture of awe, and bewilderment. Trying to calm the awe that gripped his comrades, one of the men attempted to offer a semblance of reassurance, suggesting that the luminous spectacle could have been nothing more than harmless fireworks. Meanwhile, the others continued to express their bewilderment, raising questions about the true nature of the mesmerizing radiance enveloping Jiang. In a sudden and unexpected metamorphosis, the once bright light transformed into a trace of dark energy, filling the atmosphere with a distinct shade of ominous violet, signaling a profound shift in the metaphysical forces at work. Sitting amidst this transformative energy, Jiang transformed into a ghostly figure bathed in a mesmerizing glow of purple radiance, clutching the coin necklace with unwavering determination, his eyes closed in deep contemplation. The men, now confronted with an unexpected manifestation of supernatural power, stood paralyzed with expressions of shock, fear, and disbelief on their faces, their expectations shattered by the unexpected turn of events that challenged their collective understanding. Suddenly, Jiang's eyes flew open, releasing an intense, shining cascade of golden light that immediately struck fear into those who witnessed this otherworldly phenomenon. In response to the inexplicable glow, the spectators hastily left, calling Jiang a ghost, as he gradually descended from the unearthly spectacle above. Sitting in the lingering purple streak of light, Jiang asked the fleeing people with a puzzled expression about the reason for their sudden panic, questioning the reason for their hasty retreat. As he examined his own form, he made a startling observation, noting that his body seemed to be engulfed in a glowing fire, an inexplicable phenomenon that added to the mystery of the situation. Looking at the necklace of copper coins adorning his neck, Jiang realized that he remembered that it was a copper coin that emitted a mesmerizing glow. As he clutched the copper coin necklace, its luster lingered, casting an otherworldly glow that seemed to defy the laws of the mundane world. Interestingly, it seemed as if the trace of words, reflecting the color of the shining light of the copper coin, materialized right in Jiang's eyes. The words, brightly colored, seemed to cut themselves into the fabric of the purple sky, creating an opening through which the words shone with magnificent brightness. An invisible force grabbed Jiang, pulling him up into the glowing hole created by the copper coin, an ethereal gateway to unknown worlds. In an instant, he disappeared from the familiar confines of the modern world, leaving behind bewildered spectators pondering the unusual incident. Meanwhile, the copper coin rolled gracefully through the air, its mysterious behavior attracting the attention of those below who were pondering its meaning. The index fingers followed the coin's fall into the air, which gave rise to the assumption that it might be connected to the legendary territory of the Black Wind Demon. Rumors circulated among the crowd, suggesting that the gates to the sinful world, dormant for millennia, might have reopened. Skeptics began to wonder about the possibility of escape for those serving unfinished sentences. With a thunderous crash, Jiang collided with the ground, the force of his fall leaving a noticeable crack in the surface beneath him. Rising from the floor, he had a confused and speechless expression, his body drenched in sweat as he struggled to come to terms with the surreal events that had unfolded that day. Puzzled, Jiang ran his hands over his body, confirming his continued existence and reflecting on the bewilderment of the inexplicable events that had befallen him. Suddenly enveloped in shadow, he turned to her with a mixture of curiosity and confusion on his face, unsure what new mystery awaited him. Standing in front of him were two unusual-looking people dressed in traditional clothing, which prompted Jiang to question their presence and ask if they were cosplaying. Unfazed by his question, one of the men questioned Jiang about the external situation, questioning the abundance of aura, but he redirected the conversation, deflecting their questions and pondering the nature of their peculiar appearance. Having assessed Jiang Yaya's essence, the fair-haired man detected a trace of malevolent energy, deeming it useful for his own unknown purposes. Seizing this opportunity, his partner proposed a sinister plan of action: eliminate Jiang Yaya in order to harvest both his aura and demonic energy. As the sinister duo prepared to unite against Jiang Yaya, their nefarious plans were suddenly halted when their attention was drawn to the arrival of an unexpected swordsman. Jiang Yaya, struggling with confusion, pondered the significance of these events. Overhearing their ominous conversation, Jiang Yai struggled to comprehend the surreal details. They spoke of extracting his aura and the ability to manipulate flying creatures, which made him question the reality of his circumstances, wondering if he had unwittingly stumbled into a fantastical dream world. Faced with the ominous threat posed by these mysterious creatures, Jiang Yai considered running away, hoping to escape their clutches. However, his hopes were quickly dashed, as they ominously declared there was no escape. Their eyes glowed an ominous dark blue, and their faces were adorned with an unmistakable expression of malice. Assuming the blazing light had somehow driven the swordsman mad, they harbored trepidation over his unpredictable actions. Their shared conclusion paved the way for the impending conflict. In a sinister transformation, the duo assumed their beast forms, combining their powers to attack Jiang Yaya in unison, raising the stakes of the confrontation. Launching a synchronized attack, the beasts leaped at Jiang Yaya, loudly declaring their intention to destroy him immediately. Amidst the chaos, Jiang Yai, still confused, tried to evade the onslaught of his monstrous opponents, questioning the reason for this sudden, brutal encounter. Despite his best efforts to dodge, Jiang Yai found himself subjected to painful blows that made him wince in agony as the relentless attack continued. Realizing the real threat posed by the transformed beasts, Jiang Yai, no longer under the illusion of sleep, ran away in a desperate attempt to survive. Exhausted and frustrated, he sought a momentary respite and collapsed to rest for a while, realizing that he had managed to put some distance between himself and his relentless pursuers. In an unexpected turn of events, a golden streak of light emanated from Jiang Yaya's forehead, casting a heavenly glow in the midst of his reprieve. The two attackers who witnessed this celestial phenomenon discussed the division of the upcoming attack, with the bear-like beast instructing its partner to take the initiative and save some of the impending violence for itself. However, the golden lights emitted an overwhelming power, rising from where Jiang Yai lay, defying their expectations and enhancing the mystical nature of the confrontation. In the wicked world, a perceptive young girl discerned glowing words forming in the sky, recognizing them as the emblem of the Kang family. With a quick snap of her fingers, she disappeared from her original position, leaving behind an ominous statement that she would not allow them to escape the consequences of their actions. As the mysterious girl left, her ominous words lingered, adding an air of inevitability to the unfolding events. The bear beast, realizing Jiang Yaya's lack of aura, cultivation, and spiritual presence, tightened its grip, confused by the inexplicable state of its captive. Suddenly, to the beast's astonishment, Jiang Yai disappeared from his hands, leaving the beast confused and questioning the reality of the situation. Confusion filled the bear as he wondered about the sudden disappearance, his hands now empty where they had held Jiang Yaya just minutes ago. Suspecting that his partner had somehow swallowed Jiang Yaya, the beast accused him of being a demon bear and demanded that he release all the spatial treasures obtained from the missing swordsman. Angrily threatening the bear's family, the partner insisted on handing over the treasure, emphasizing that they lacked the means to live from absorbing the aura for a millennium. The looming fear intensified as a mad swordsman entered the scene, striking fear into the once confident duo, who now struggled with the realization that their actions could have unleashed a force beyond their control. He entered the room, a sinister grin playing on his lips, brandishing his sword with a wicked glint. A glowing, light purple aura enveloped him, adding an eerie quality to his menacing presence. The moment he arrived, he reported a sharp sensation of a fresh aura in the air. He pointed to the creatures that had previously undergone a transformation, signaling the detection of unusual energy. He noted with a nostalgic tone that it had been a while since he'd encountered such a pure and fresh aura. For him, this presented the perfect opportunity for the ceremonial sacrifice of the sword. The bear, perplexed, inquired about the nature of the so-called fresh aura. This called into question the man's peculiar fascination with the scent that had caught his attention. The eccentric individual questioned the bear about the location of the fresh aura. In response, the bear begged for mercy, claiming that Jiang Yai was weak and didn't deserve the man's deadly blade. Jiang Yai, discovering he was miraculously alive, felt a wave of confusion wash over him. Confused, he wondered why he'd used the word again and scratched his head in disbelief. Seeing Jiang Yaya sitting up and unharmed, the bear expressed confusion, prompting him to question his inexplicable survival. Jiang Yaya, believing the madman's sword had spared him, found solace in his unexpected survival. Bear, looking at Jiang Yaya, noticed that he looked like a seasoned, middle-aged master. Grateful for his life, Jiang Yaya's gratitude changed when the madman's sword launched an attack called a sword thrust. Jiang Yai, stabbed in the chest, was stunned to discover no blood flowing from the wound. Meanwhile, the madman's sword reflected his confusion, unable to comprehend the lack of blood. Accepting the bear's earlier assessment of his weakness, Jiang Yai recognized the lack of blood as confirmation of his vulnerability. The bear, sensing the anomaly, assumed that something was wrong and discovered a powerful force emanating from within Jiang Yaya. Turning to face the unexpected presence behind him, the bear was stunned by the discovery. The man's reappearance brought joy, and he again informed Jiang Yai of their meeting. He asked whether Jiang Yai practiced immortal magic or the art of substitution, leaving Jiang Yai confused and ignorant. The madman praised Jiang Yaya, declaring that he was worthy of wielding a sword, preparing for another attack. Leaping into the air, the madman mercilessly hacked at Jiang Yaya with his sword, but each blow repeatedly brought Jiang Yaya back to life. In desperation, Jiang Yai pleaded with the madman, expressing his weariness at the constant cycle of death and rebirth. He asked if the madman was tired of the constant battle. The madman, unable to understand Jiang Yaya's resilience, prepared for another attack, confirming that Jiang Yaya was worthy of being a target. The sword repeatedly struck Jiang Yaya, but every blow could not put an end to his stubborn existence. Despite the relentless onslaught, Jiang Yai, in a continuous cycle, revived after each fatal blow. Jiang Yai, weary of the relentless cycle of death, called out to the madman, expressing his weariness. He wondered if the madman, too, was tired of the seemingly endless struggle. The madman, amazed by Jiang Yai's resilience, couldn't believe his inability to commit suicide. In despair, he asked how many more times Jiang Yai would return after death. Turning his attention to the transformed beasts, Jiang Yai questioned their lack of assistance. Given their immense strength, they acknowledged their inability to assist him and retreated tactically. With astonishing speed, the madman soared into the air, ready to deliver another brutal blow to Jiang Yayu. In his merciless attack, he ignored any pleas for pardon or reprieve. Overwhelmed by excruciating pain, Jiang Yai's cries of agony echoed throughout his body, marking the horrific nature of his predicament. The torment he endured seemed like a form of cruel and merciless torture, leaving him yearning for any conceivable means of release. Suddenly, the imminent threat of the madman's impending attack on Jiang Yayu ceased. The tension in the air became palpable as the attacker's movements ceased, providing a momentary respite from the merciless assault. The sudden interruption found its source in the form of a young woman who materialized before Jiang Yai. With a stern warning, she warned against breaking any promises. In her hands, she held the broken tip of the madman's sword, the weapon that had been pointed menacingly at Jiang Yai just moments before. The madman, overwhelmed with amazement at the sight of this unearthly figure, stared incredulously at the shattered remains of his sword. The unexpected intervention not only stopped the impending danger but also left the attacker visibly stunned and confused by the turn of events. Turning to him with an air of graceful poise, she asked the question, softly speaking the words that hung in the air like an inviting whisper, asking him if he would perhaps tolerate the idea of her generously offering him a ride. The answer that came from his lips was an immediate, visceral refusal, born not of simple resistance, but of a palpable, hidden fear that seemed to grip his very being. In a show of respect, he bowed gracefully, a gesture laden with unspoken apologies, conveying the urgency of his departure, an urgency that brooked no delay. This revelation struck Jiang Yaya like lightning, leaving him momentarily stunned. His mind struggled with the disbelief of meeting a seemingly insane man who, paradoxically, recoiled in fear. The mystery deepened as he pondered the identity of the mysterious girl, prompting him to register his disbelief. Having emerged from the lair of the metaphorical tiger, he had unwittingly found himself in the lair of the metaphorical wolf. In a gesture of admiration, she expressed his kindness, asking if there was anything he could wish for. A subtle, almost imperceptible smile graced Jiang Yaya's face as he internally recognized the undeniable attraction emanating from her. She reassured him by emphasizing that her plea had no weight, and that all she wanted was for him to escape the labyrinth of the sinful world, a simple request that had deep meaning. Puzzled and bewildered, he confessed his incomprehension, revealing a state of mental confusion caused by the complexity of the riddle of the sinful world. Gently her fingers touched his forehead, a gentle touch that served as a prelude to the revelation that the Kang family bore the mantle of guardians of the sinful world. Delving further into the depths of the revelation, she formulated that the entire cohort of demons in the sinful world was definitely under the control of his hereditary Khan family. Shuffling through the recesses of his memories, memories of his formative years surfaced, evoking memories of the past that his grandfather had regaled him with about the mysterious sinful world. His grandfather's stories unfolded, telling tales of capricious gods, and the younger Jiang was left puzzled by the nebulous concept of the same thing forward. Explaining the inseparable connection, his grandfather shared the knowledge that the sinful world was inextricably linked with their respected Khan family. Continuing to elaborate on the cosmic dichotomy, his grandfather expounded on the ancient division between the immortals and the mortals. When a living being achieved immortality, they were drawn to the inevitable ascension to the ancient immortal world, leaving the mundane human realm behind. Having strayed from the righteous path, some immortals fell into crime, which led to their expulsion from the ancient immortal world and their being sent to the punitive realms of the sinful world. The mantle of control over the sin-filled realm or the appointment of guardian of the ancient immortal realm has always fallen on the shoulders of a chosen descendant of their venerable Khan line. Remarkably, his grandfather passed on the mixed blessing, honor, and heavy responsibility inherent in this role. However, this idyllic existence was shattered by the sudden disappearance of the ancient immortal world and the subsequent closure of the gate of sin. The secret passed down through the generations of the Kang family, transformed from a blessing into an enduring curse. A burning desire arose in the grandfather, a desire for his descendants to lead a peaceful life, free from the shackles of the sinful world and its dark complexities. As Jiang pieced together the fragments of family history, her growing understanding of her identity began to take shape. The girl, patient in her millennial vigil, expressed her unwavering anticipation for the rebirth of the Kang family. In response, Jiang acknowledged an epiphany, a realization of the significance inherent in his own lineage. A smile played on his lips as he confirmed his identity as a descendant of the esteemed Kang family, keenly aware of the weight and consequences that came with such a distinguished lineage. Confirming her confession, she responded with a smile, signifying his freedom to free her from whatever invisible bonds were holding her back. Surprisingly, he contradicted her expectations by expressing an unequivocal determination to return home, rejecting the prospect of remaining in a kingdom where his existence would be marked by countless deaths. With a hoarse laugh, he picked up the coin, intending to build a gate that would serve as his passage from the monstrous inhabitants that surrounded him. Despite his outward bravado, creating the gate wasn't as simple as expected. Stuck in a tangled limbo, he writhed and twisted, unable to cross the portal's threshold. Turning to the girl with a pleading look, he begged her for help, solemnly promising to fulfill his previous promise to ease her exit from the realm of confusion. Amusement danced in her eyes as she laughed, enjoying the spectacle of his predicament. With a show of strength, she pulled him out of his interdimensional impasse. As he ascended through the ethereal gate, his cries of fear echoed in the noisy passageway. Her enigmatic words resonated in the tense air, calling him to witness the world that awaited him, a sinful world. As they flew into the unknown, his fears grew. The girl guided him with inexorable force, unraveling the mysteries shrouded in the fabric of a deserted, ominous kingdom. Their ascent revealed a land shrouded in darkness, shrouded in an oppressive aura, with traces of blood staining the landscape. It seemed uninhabited, as if life itself had long since abandoned this desolate space. Displeasure furrowed his brow as he surveyed the grim picture, expressing dissatisfaction with the seemingly empty gift bestowed upon him. He doubted the courage of giving him a piece of the desert. In response to his disbelief, she explained the absence of aura in the sin world, a key factor that makes direct teleportation an unattainable feat. Deeply pondering this newfound discovery, he realized the profound implications that dawned on him. The lack of aura explained his inability to teleport directly from the sinful world, heightening the confusion inherent in the mysterious realm that enveloped him in its enigmatic embrace. She told him a disconcerting truth. For ordinary people, the world of sin was an inescapable labyrinth. Hearing this, his face reflected displeasure, and he doubted the possibility of escaping the clutches of the sinful world. Memories of life in the modern world, immersed in games and routine, overwhelmed him. Unable to contain his disappointment, he burst into tears, trying to comprehend the sudden and irreversible nature of his circumstances. Resisting acceptance, he used his own hands to pull her hand out of his shirt, symbolically rejecting the harsh reality that he might never return to his old world. In response to his obvious despair, she reassured him by hinting at a potential solution. A glimmer of hope flickered in his eyes as he looked at her, searching for a lifeline amid the uncertainty. Her revelation opened a trial path, a formal acceptance of the role of controller and ruler of the world of sin, giving him the opportunity to move freely through its spheres. Hesitantly, he dealt with the difficult and unpleasant responsibilities that came with this role. Considering the idyllic existence others sought in the immortal world, he was surprised at how he was tasked with overseeing a stretch of wasteland, dealing with infrastructure problems and demonic harassment. Scratching his chin, he wondered what decision his grandfather might have made when faced with such a choice, unsure of his own actions. Drawing inspiration from his grandfather's memory, he recognized the potential blessing, honor, and responsibility of taking on this role. Grumbling about the seemingly mundane task of managing prisoners in a massive prison, he resignedly compared it to an enhanced version of the games he once played. With determination, he announced his decision to take charge immediately, causing streaks of golden light to appear before him. The ancient coin around his neck glowed, a subtle confirmation of the transformative journey he was about to undertake. The descendants of the Kang family have just officially accepted the prestigious role of guardians of the sinful world, marking a significant milestone in their family's legacy. As he closed his eyes and sank into his newfound power, the realization hit him. The energy flowing through him was nothing short of extraordinary. Feeling connected to the outside world, a spark of hope lit within him, suggesting the possibility of returning home. The feeling was the same as clutching a key, symbolizing the ability to open the gates to his home world. Eager to experiment with this newfound ability, he extended his hands and successfully created a ball of light, testing the limits of his newfound abilities. Inspired by his success, he decided to create a portal to the human world, the very gate that would facilitate his return home. Now that the gates were open, he could discern the familiar sight of his grandparents' shop from the sin world, which filled him with great joy. Struck by the sight of the open gates, he was overcome with a deep sense of happiness. The prospect of finally returning home aroused in him an even greater sense of jubilation. Just as he was about to pass through the gate, she materialized behind him, creating an unexpected complication. Despite being newly appointed as the controller of the Sin realm, he required the Kang family's special weapon to formalize his right of entry and exit. Puzzled, he doubted the existence of the mysterious special weapon, insisting that he had nothing but a copper coin hanging from his necklace. Shrouded in secrecy, she admitted to knowing the location of the weapons, but was unwilling to reveal their whereabouts. With a sudden clap of her hands, she orchestrated a stunning transformation in his surroundings. He stared in amazement at the unexpected change. Using her mystical powers, she lifted him off the ground, placing him directly above the mysterious hole. The sensation caused a palpable fear to grip him as he hovered above the unknown depths. Abruptly releasing her ethereal grip, she rebuked him for attempting to escape on his own. In a cryptic revelation, she revealed that the elusive special weapon was not located in some external location, but was in fact inextricably linked to his own personality. Rising from the ground in discomfort, he expressed his disappointment by calling her apparently immortal and questioning her stinginess, while expressing concern that he had almost lost his cherry in the process. He immediately stood up. The other beings that were in the Sin world smelled him and knew that he was the Kang family, and then they decided to take revenge for imprisoning them for thousands of years and said that although they couldn't kill him, they would make his life miserable. He was confused when he saw a group of people surrounding him, and then told them that he was the new boss and why exactly they wanted to kill him. They decided to attack him together, but he just stood there while they attacked him countless times and did nothing because it didn't even hurt, so he didn't need to dodge or counterattack. After relentless attacks, exhausted by the constant bombardment, they were faced with the realization that he, the sinister puppeteer, held sway over the world of sin, rendering their physical attacks powerless against his formidable defenses. Recognizing the futility of conventional means, they decided to employ unearthly tactics, daring to enter the realm of spiritual warfare. Using the esoteric and elusive technique of the ghostly sleeping demon, they sought to trap him in the labyrinth of his own subconscious. He expressed a desire to dig into the darkest corners of his mind, allowing a flood of the most painful memories to engulf him in the chilling embrace of nightmares. As he lay prone, immersed in the ghostly tapestry of his memories, the weight of the memories threatened to drown him in the depths of his own despair. A flood of memories came flooding back, engulfing his life since the installation. Echoes of scorn and ridicule from those he considered comrades. Accusations of incompetence branding him as the architect of their collective demise. His cherished relationship crumbled, the fragments of affection replaced by the condemning verdict of his former lover, who once saw him as a child prodigy, now blinded by disappointment. Whispers of misfortune enveloped his family, and rumors spread that each member had met an untimely end. In the throes of this introspective whirlwind, happiness eluded him, but as the memories began to fade, an ephemeral sense of relief crept in. With eyes wide open, the ghostly remnant of the inner demons dissipated, leaving behind a victorious and unburdened soul, a conqueror of its own shadows. Quickly waking up, he found himself filled with an overwhelming wave of power, newfound strength coursing through his veins. Suddenly feeling a presence on his arm, he launched a powerful blow at those who attacked him, the power emanating from his renewed being. Puzzled, he carefully examined his hand and discovered a mysterious weapon, the origin of which was shrouded in mystery. Questioning the authenticity of his perceptions, he wondered if it had been a simple hallucination. A young girl approached Jiang Yayu from behind, congratulated him, and confirmed that the mysterious weapon would now grant him the rightful mantle of governing power in the Sin world. The indomitable Khan family boasts a legacy tied to the impressive God Wipe, hailed as their most powerful weapon. This legendary artifact, shrouded in mystique, is a testament to the family's formidable lineage. Passed through the annals of time, the divine napkin originated in the hands of Kang Xia, a revered ancestor of the Kang family. Its enduring legacy has been passed down through generations, a treasured relic with a history steeped in martial prowess. Within the sacred precincts of the Jade Void Palace, the heavenly abode of Yuanshi Tianzun, the god of Wipe reigns as the most coveted treasure. This revered saint from the Himalayas guards this relic, created specifically to defeat the 8 gods on the celestial battlefield. Gifted by Kanzia, the divine napkin played a key role in completing the divine seal ceremony. This extraordinary artifact, measuring exactly 3 feet 6 inches, is divided into 21 sections. Each section bears 4 symbolic seals, for a total of 84 symbolic imprints, emphasizing its sacred significance. Given their heritage as members of the Khan family, searching for this extraordinary treasure becomes an imperative duty. God Wipe symbolizes not only military superiority, but also the family duty to protect and utilize this unprecedented artifact that has transcended the corridors of time. She told him that he didn't know how to use it, but he was busy rejoicing in the fact that his ancestors were rich, and then he turned to the people who attacked him and said that he was going to try and ask them to attack him first. Brandishing his special weapon with confidence, he resolutely aimed it at one of his opponents, declaring his intention to test the power of his God Wipe. Faced with impending punishment, the victim begged for mercy, tears streaming down his face as he pleaded for clemency from this formidable excellency. Anticipation hung in the air as he began the cleansing, but to the onlookers' surprise, nothing happened. A collective silence enveloped the area, giving way to a surprised disbelief at the unexpected turn of events. Seeing the failed attempt, the mysterious figure burst into laughter, prompting his confused question. He demanded to know why she was so amused when the supposedly most powerful weapon had proven ineffective. In response, she called him stupid and enlightened him on the intricacies of God Wipe. Explaining the 21 sections, each adorned with 4 symbols, she explained that the consultant's authority encompasses 21 levels, each corresponding to a symbol and strengthening. With a hint of leniency, she instructed him to activate level 1, thereby activating the first section of the symbols. Only then, she assured him, would he unlock God Wipe's true potential and unleash its immense power upon his opponents. Initiating God Wipe with a new understanding, he unleashed its power on those who had previously attacked him. The blow was devastating, inflicting severe damage on every opponent standing nearby. As he surveyed the aftermath of the attack, a mixture of surprise and disbelief crossed his face. Seeing the extent of the injuries sustained by his now defeated opponents, he couldn't help but find the effectiveness of divine rubbing somewhat astounding, bordering on the realm of exaggeration. The woman then told him that suppressing the Sin rebellion was the administrator's job, so it was only natural that they had been rewarded for it. He could now enter and exit the world freely. He asked her if she was afraid he would use the wipe against her, because she was giving him too much information. She told him that she had already served her punishment, and was no longer under the wipe. Continuing her advice, she shared the wisdom that many ancient laws were no longer applicable today, and he readily agreed. Recognizing the changing nature of social norms, they found common ground in understanding the need to adapt and revise outdated legal structures. He asked if there could be many such trapped demons and sinful immortals in the Sin world because the Kang family hadn't appeared. She replied that it didn't matter, since he was now bound to the Sin world. He had to bear the fate of the Sin world and couldn't escape. Inspired by their newfound union, she proposed a different kind of alliance, asking him to escort her out of their current realm. In exchange, she promised to share the secrets of cultivation, a skill that could potentially elevate him to dominance in the human world. Agreeing to her proposal, he agreed to accompany her. However, his motives were different from a desire for dominance. Instead, he sought to right past wrongs and cleanse the shadows of his previous misdeeds. When the gates to their current realm swung open, they found themselves transported to the human world. However, in the process, he tripped and fell, and the transition proved more difficult than expected. Emerging from the ethereal boundary into the human world, she expressed joy at her return after a long absence. Her happiness was accompanied by an air of nostalgia, underscoring the significance of their arrival. Having confirmed their successful passage, he stood up, signaling their safe exit from the sinful world and the beginning of their journey into the realm of humanity. Then he turned around and saw that the three guys who had attacked him earlier were still running, and then he was shocked because it had actually only been a few seconds. Her gaze lingered on Kang Yai, gratitude evident in her eyes as he demonstrated his willingness to lead her out of this world of sin. A silent acknowledgement passed between them, acknowledging the significance of this gesture. At that moment, a revelation struck her. Observing Kang Yai's determination, she believed he had the potential to save a world on the brink of collapse due to sin. Seeds of hope sprouted in her mind, anchored by his strength and dedication. The physical toll of their journey weighed heavily on Jiang Yaya, evident in his labored breathing after the long journey through the sinful world. His thoughts were tinged with regret, and he wondered whether it was worth the risk of buying clothes, given his fatigue. Walking beside him in the human world, she couldn't help but notice the curious glances directed at her. Taking advantage of the moment, she mockingly inquired about the milk tea and hot pot people were discussing. Expressing her interest, she expressed a desire to try these culinary delights, adding a touch of levity to their journey. People couldn't stop whispering and talking about her clothes or cosplay, and how could they not know that Jiang Yaya's child had grown so big even though he wasn't married yet? He felt awkward when he heard what they said, and then blushed. People took out their phones and started recording and saying that the cosplay was beautiful, great material, and that the father and daughter were cute too. But then one of the men recording recognized Jiang Yaya and said that he looked familiar, as if he'd seen him somewhere. Upon being recognized, a sense of urgency gripped him, and without a moment's hesitation, Kang Yai seized it, beginning a rapid escape. Running across the landscape, he outpaced his pursuers, putting considerable distance between them and potential capture. He was overcome with relief when they found a secluded spot offering temporary refuge. The breakneck speed with which he evaded pursuit prevented them from catching up or discovering their location. However, the respite was short-lived, as she urgently needed to change. During his chaotic escape, a women's boutique employee approached him, her disappointment palpable. She advised him to behave, emphasizing the need to maintain composure amid their hasty escape. A sudden realization dawned on him as he glanced around, taking in the surrounding women's boutiques, lingerie stores, and clothing stores. A blush of embarrassment colored his face as he recognized the nature of the establishment, adding an unexpected layer of awkwardness to their escape. Kang Yai's eyes widened as he came across a line of women changing clothes. The shock on their faces mirrored his own surprise at accidentally finding himself in a women's boutique. Realizing his unintentional intrusion, Kang Yai quickly apologized to the startled women, assuring them that he had not intended to intrude into their locker room. The sincerity of his apology was intended to dispel any discomfort caused by the unexpected encounter. In an unexpected turn of events, Ms. Su emerged from the dressing room in a swimsuit. Turning to Kang Yai, she asked his opinion of the outfit, wondering if it seemed too revealing. She then criticized the material, expressing surprise at its unconventionality and noting that the garment lacked the desired level of stretch. This encounter lent a humorous edge to the situation, mixing embarrassment with unexpected criticism of swimwear. When one of the employees saw her, she asked him why he hadn't told her he wanted to buy a swimsuit for his daughter. But she immediately spoke up and said she wasn't his daughter, that she simply lived in his house, and that they didn't even know each other. Ms. Su's frank comments about the revealing nature and unusual material of the swimsuit momentarily left the other ladies speechless. Faced with this unexpected comment, the collective understanding came that some action or countermeasure was necessary to resolve the unexpected situation. The atmosphere shifted as the women considered their next move, each interpreting this peculiar turn of events in their own way. Faced with mounting tension, the women, feeling cornered, hastily pulled out their phones to report what they believed to be a kidnapping to the police. Meanwhile, Jiang Yai, recognizing the gravity of the situation, grabbed Ms. Su's hand and pleaded with her for consequences, claiming she had inadvertently implicated him. Amidst this, A concerned bystander shouted at him to stop. Assessing the urgency of the situation, Ms. Su, determined to correct the misunderstanding, decided to use her mystical powers. Recognizing the need to quickly change her appearance, especially given her current attire, a swimsuit, she began using her abilities to alter her appearance. In an instant, Miss Su successfully used her powers to transform from a swimsuit into her original outfit, seamlessly reverting to the clothes she'd been wearing before her unexpected foray into the women's boutique. This sudden transformation was intended to dispel the misunderstanding and restore a semblance of normalcy to the unfolding situation. As they ran, he saw that she had changed her clothes and told her that if he had known she could change clothes, he wouldn't have had to buy her. But then she responded by telling him that the dressing up spell consumed magical power, and there was no corresponding spiritual energy. During their hasty escape, Kang Yai and Miss Su encountered a woman with vibrant purple hair, her serious expression catching their attention as they rushed past. The purple-haired woman stopped abruptly, a sense of foreboding gripping her as she detected an ancient and ominous scent in the air. The unmistakable aura of ancient evil lingered, compelling her to pay attention to the unfolding situation. When the police gave the order to stop the alleged kidnappers, the purple-haired woman sprang into action. Drawing on her mystical powers, she produced a magical paper and declared that the kidnapper had met an unfortunate fate after crossing her path. As a devotee of the righteous path, she vowed to punish and destroy evil, demonstrating her unwavering commitment to upholding justice. Finally reaching the safety of his home, Kanyai sighed with relief, the tension dissipating as he sat down. The trials and tribulations of the day had subsided, giving him the opportunity to rest and reflect. A few minutes later, Miss Su came out and said she'd changed her clothes, so when were they going to play outside? She told her they shouldn't go outside for a while, and if she wanted to watch something interesting, she could use the computer, which had everything. Kanyai was presented with a computer game and was amazed when she carefully touched the device, asking if it was what people call a computer game. Confirming her curiosity, Kanyai declared her divine status, proclaiming herself a true god. Excitement sparkled in her eyes as she eagerly expressed her desire to join in and play the game. Inspired by the idea of collaboration, Kanyai imagined the formidable team they could become by joining forces with Su. Recognizing the potential invincibility of their partnership, he felt a surge of optimism about returning to their former glory. Overjoyed by this new strategy, Kanyai foresaw a quick return to the top. Confident in the strength of their combined efforts, he believed success was inevitable. Kanyai approached her with the intention of giving her some gameplay advice, but she adamantly insisted she understood everything perfectly and was invincible. Her confidence hinted at a competitive spirit, laying the foundation for a spirited gameplay. The room fell into stunned silence the moment she lost the game. The unexpected turn of events left Kanyai and Su momentarily speechless, their anticipation giving way to a shared sense of surprise. Jiang couldn't hide his disappointment at Su's defeat. His disappointment stemmed not only from her loss, but also from her unwillingness to accept his guidance or direction. Her independent approach had proven less successful than expected. Undeterred by her defeat, Su didn't let it affect her. Instead of dwelling on her failures, she continued to immerse herself in the gameplay, finding the challenge and excitement invigorating. Her resilience in the face of defeat hinted at a determined spirit ready to embrace the challenges of the virtual world. He stood behind her and told her he wanted to teach her how to play the game, but she lost and didn't listen. Su simply ignored him while he talked behind her back and was busy playing her games. Suddenly and mystically, a magical paper surrounded by a golden medium light flew into their room, attracting their attention. This enchanted paper possessed the power to exorcise evil spirits, its purpose obvious as it lay on the room's floor. Its very presence hinted at a force fighting invisible malice. The magical paper transformed into a paperman, attempting to enter the room where Kanyai and Su were engrossed in their game. However, he encountered resistance, blocked by a formidable magical force emanating from within. Despite numerous attempts to enter the room, the paperman encountered insurmountable obstacles. Exhausted by his futile efforts, he finally succumbed to fatigue and fell to the floor. Unfazed by this mystical occurrence, Su continued to immerse herself in the game. Fascinated by the computer's capabilities, she marveled at its functions, expressing her intention to create a similar device in the future. Her enthusiasm for the game and technological innovation remained undiminished. Jiang, seizing the opportunity to grow, offered Su the chance to learn new techniques for creating innovative weapons. Eager for progress, he reminded her of his promise to teach him the art of practice. In response to his request, Su snapped her fingers, creating a book. Pointing to his hands, she advised him to acquire the items listed in the book as necessary for their practice. Having convinced him to stop arguing further, Su dismissed him, emphasizing the importance of obtaining the items from the book. Resolutely focusing on her game, she declared her intention to begin training as soon as she received the necessary materials. He was overjoyed to see the book he was given. It was a book about medicine, the King's Sutra, about the beginning of development, the decline of bone marrow and bones, and the use of medicines to detach from the physical body. Jiang Yaya's initial joy turned to apprehension as he glanced at the book's contents. It listed high-quality products, each with a hefty price tag, including items like ginseng. The realization that purchasing these items would deplete his hard-earned savings prompted him to voice his complaints. His frustration grew as he realized the financial implications of these unexpected expenses. Expressing his dissatisfaction with the impending financial hardship, Jiang Yai lamented the fact that his career savings were now being used to purchase these expensive, high-quality items. As soon as Jiang Yai left, Su, seemingly unfazed, stood up and casually stepped on the paperman. However, her flinch indicated that even this mystical creature was not immune to the physical world. Lifting her leg from the paper figure, Su turned her attention to the virtual world. Dissatisfied with her gaming group's performance, she attributed their defeat to external factors, specifically blaming the in-game field. She then used her feet to lift the paperman, who was struggling to free himself. She looked at him and said that the little paperman was very spiritual and seemed to be a family treasure. But it was a pity that their spellcasters were unskilled in this art and had limited range. Expressing her displeasure, Su criticized the apparent lack of progress in the skills of the dumb monk of the talisman school, highlighting the supposed stagnation over the millennia. With a mixture of amusement and disdain, she clutched the paperman tightly, causing it to tremble in her hands. Her actions served as a form of mockery, further emphasizing her disdain for the mystical creature. Relentlessly entertained, Su decided to escalate the situation by casting a more powerful spell on the paperman. The magical energy intensified, promising a more powerful effect on the enchanted creature. Concluding her conversation with the paperman, Su said goodbye to him as he jumped out the window after being released. The mystical creature, now under the influence of her magic, set off on a journey beyond the room. Meanwhile, at the herbal shop where Jiang Yai stood, considering buying the medicinal herbs listed in the book, the paperman encountered a new problem. The paperman, struggling to climb Jiang Yaya's legs, held him tightly with a mixture of anger and determination. Despite the obvious resistance, the enchanted creature continued its ascent, clinging to Jiang Yaya's body in a peculiar display of mystical interaction. The purple-headed girl closed her eyes to sense where the paperman was, and when she saw him, she opened her eyes and immediately headed in the direction she sensed him. Driven by urgency, Su jumped onto the windowsill, preparing to rush to the place where she felt the paperman. Determined not to be late, she moved forward at high speed, navigating her surroundings with agility and focus as she approached the paperman's location. Arriving at the herbal store, Su positioned herself outside, her gaze fixed on Jiang Yaya inside as he went about the process of purchasing herbs. Using her magical abilities, Su initiated spells, summoning her paper soldiers to prepare for the inevitable battle. The air around her crackled with mystical energy as she prepared her forces. When the spell took effect, the paperman, previously in motion, suddenly stopped moving. He froze, as if manipulated by an external force responding to Su's magical summons. Meanwhile, inside the store, employees informed Jiang Yayu that some medications were incompatible with each other. He calmly dismissed their concerns, insisting on purchasing the herbs despite the potential risks, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Startled by the unexpected noise, Jiang Yai turned around and saw a strange sight. A paperman standing on a heart. The meaning of this mystical sight puzzled him. The purple-headed girl, apparently the paperman's creator, found herself under attack from her own creation. Confused, she sat on the floor, wondering why the seemingly cheerful paperman had become hostile. In her upset state, the girl pointed the finger at Jiang Yaya, calling him a demon and demanding an explanation for his alleged actions. The sudden accusation left Jiang Yaya confused, struggling to comprehend the unfolding situation. Jiang Yai, struggling with confusion, turned to investigate the noise, only to find himself being accused without any understanding of its cause. This unexpected turn of events left him at a loss. Trying to diffuse the tension, Jiang Yai extended his hands, offering to help the girl who had been attacked. He inquired about her well-being and offered to help, trying to understand the situation. Instead of accepting the offered help, the girl became frightened, interpreting Jiang Yaya's gestures as a prelude to another attack. Her fears intensified, fueled by the conviction that he was trying to harm her again. She immediately jumped up and then fell down, preparing to fight and telling him that he should not even think about attacking her again. She brought her magic papers to get rid of evil, and then told him that he had committed a crime on the street, desecrated her treasure, and was now trying to take advantage of someone. She picked up the newspaper and then declared that she was Fei Lui from the Tianxin sect, so she was going to kill him today for the sake of heaven. Kang Ya was confused and then asked what was going on. He was surprised that he could encounter a practitioner even while shopping and asked why she attacked him. As she launched an attack at him, one of her papermen immediately jumped up and then blocked the attack for him. She was surprised when her newspaperman parried her attack. She pointed at him and called him despicable. She was wounded in the counterattack, then asked him how he knew about their school paper folding technique. He was confused, and then asked her what she had just done to herself, and whether real practitioners were reckless. After that, she decided to cast another spell. She said that she wanted to keep a low profile, but since he was forcing her, she had no choice but to show him her power. In a moment of frustration and perceived threat, she created with her own hands a multitude of magical documents, each imbued with the power to dispel evil. Intending to use them, she prepared to use the mystical documents against him. Sensing danger, she quickly drew her sword, branding him a demon and forcing him to look at the blade's potential. The atmosphere grew tense as the confrontation escalated. In response to her intimidation, Jiang, feeling a surge of fear, declared that he saw nothing in her sword. His attempt to downplay the situation reflected his desire to defuse the conflict. Recognizing the imminent danger, Jiang took decisive action. Anticipating the attack, he quickly opened the gate to return home, prioritizing his safety over further combat. The portal offered him a quick escape, emphasizing his instinct for self-preservation. Surprised and disbelieving, she couldn't understand how he had managed to slip away from her. His unexpected escape plunged her into a state of shock, and she had to struggle with the realization that he had slipped through her fingers. She was silent for a moment, not understanding what was happening. The aura she had just felt was not like the sinful aura she had felt before. It was also not the same as the spell aura on the paper soldier, so she wondered if it was possible that they might be an evil cultivation group. The staff then pulled her away from her thoughts and asked if the two of them played cosplay and performed dirty magic, after which he told her not to interfere with his business. He then extended his hand and asked her to pay for the magical herbs that Kang Ya had collected. She tried to defend herself, but the store owner had just told him that he understood perfectly well that they were on-screen enemies, but in reality they were KP. After the payment was completed, the shopkeeper shared his point of view, acknowledging the strength of her companion's magical abilities. His remark implied an appreciation for the mystical talents demonstrated by Sue's companion. In a desolate, fiery landscape where heat permeated the air, a lady occupied the central throne. The barren landscape echoed with flickering flames, creating a dramatic backdrop for her presence. Catching the tantalizing aroma, the lady licked her lips in anticipation, her senses heightened by the scent of something seductive wafting through the air. Having discovered the essence of what she believed to be an immortal weapon treasure, the woman expressed her intention to seize and enjoy her newfound acquisition, seeking to explore its potential. Engrossed in the virtual world, Sue's reactions were reflected in the real world as she continued playing the game. Each defeat prompted her to express her frustration with constant screams, creating a sonic expression of her intense gaming experience. Immersed in the intense gameplay, Sue's attention focused on the virtual world when a gate suddenly materialized in the room. The portal's sudden appearance added to the atmosphere of mystery. Seizing the opportunity, Kanyai, having successfully purchased some medicinal herbs, rushed into the room. The gate served as a bridge between worlds, allowing him to seamlessly transition from the herbal shop to the space where Sue was absorbed in her game. Then he fell, suddenly making sense, and then the gates closed. Returning, he signed the papers with relief, then said he was finally out of danger. Sue turned to him and said that what he had just done was dangerous. Because he had let out his sinful breath now that everyone was aware of the unusual presence, his problems were still ahead. Kang Ya was startled when he uttered the word problem, then complained that he'd opened the gate before and nothing had happened. But she still responded, telling him because it was a fact that she was with him. When she saw that she'd lost the game because of the negotiations, she became angry. She angrily pointed the mouse at the floor, and then said that her opponent was targeting her as she was dead again. Continuing her virtual conquest, Sue confidently asserted that her opponents would in fact perish within a few turns. Meanwhile, Kanyai, witnessing the valor of his broken mouse, felt tears welling up in his eyes. Distraught over the lack of funds to replace the injured mouse, Kanyai expressed his financial difficulties. In a moment of apparent generosity, Sue snapped her fingers, signaling mystical intervention. Reacting instantly to her gesture, Kanye found a brand new mouse in his palm. The unexpected gift delighted his eyes, and he marveled at the sudden change. Grateful for the new mouse, Kanye, still excited, asked Sue if she could finally teach him the art of practice. Eager to learn, he sought advice on how to improve his skills. Eager to share her knowledge, Sue agreed to train Kanye on one condition. He would help her defeat a formidable opponent on the other side of the virtual world, a player she considered difficult and dastardly. The proposed alliance added a layer of cooperative play to their unfolding adventure. Sincerely agreeing to Sue's condition, Kanye stood in front of the gaming system, confidently declaring that games were his forte and expressing his willingness to accept the challenge. In the midst of the game, Kanye, intrigued by Sue's remarkable performance, pointed to the impressive score on the computer screen. Curious and impressed, he inquired about the strategy or skills that led to such an astonishing record, eager to unravel the secrets of her mastery. Then it occurred to him that she hadn't been playing under her own name, but under his, and he knew it was all over. He'd lost countless times, and his opponents laughed at him because he called himself a professional player. Seeing that he was causing trouble by losing games, she hit him on the head and then told him that he better get some sleep so she could fix everything. The next day, a medicinal mixture was carefully prepared for Jiang, designed to prepare his body for the upcoming cultivation. His eyes suddenly snapped open, the remnants of Sue's previous attacks still lingering in his memory. He winced as he saw Sue, completely naked, thrust her hands into the water in his bathtub. Jiang, stunned and filled with indignation, demanded an explanation for her actions. Undeterred, she maintained an irritated expression, seemingly unapologetic about everything that had happened. Sue explained that she was simply helping him alter his bone marrow, enhancing the effectiveness of some rather dull world herbs with the addition of spiritual energy to make them easier to digest. The mere mention of the word taste stunned Jiang, his mind momentarily frozen while he was taking a bath. The unexpected reference to taste made him feel uneasy in his vulnerable position. Following Sue's instructions to continue his bath, Jiang listened as she promised to make a body-cleansing treasure for him, adding a layer of mystique to their interaction in the tranquil setting of the bath. A sudden tremor crossed Jiang's face as he instinctively reached for his neck, as if trying to grasp something elusive in his memory. The unexpected physical reaction hinted at the complexity of his thoughts, adding an element of mystery to the scene. Emerging from the healing bath, he saw what Sue described as a transformative device capable of altering his physique. She assured him it would accelerate his progress beyond mortal limits. After advising him to put on a bodybuilding machine and exercise regularly, Sue couldn't help but smirk at the puzzled look on his face. Undisclosed to him, the device included monitoring features that allowed Sue to secretly observe him and potentially profit from his dark history. Disappointed by the transformation, which resembled the Transformer toys sold to elementary school students, Jiang wondered if she would develop into a Transformer hero. Ignoring his question, Sue continued to activate the transformation watch on Jiang's hands, leaving him completely stunned by the sudden activation of the mystical device. Undeterred, Sue emphasized her unique philosophy, arguing that the less aesthetically pleasing the artifact, the more incentive Jiang would have to improve her physique. This unconventional approach added a touch of humor and motivation to the situation. The activated device revealed its functionality. It compressed the flow of qi and blood, forcing Jiang to absorb external aura during exercise. The device promised to provide 100 times the training volume at 10 times the weight, posing a challenging challenge for physical development. Sue explained that as long as Jiang remained active, the device would autonomously enhance his body. The autonomous nature of the process added an intriguing element to the prospect of physical enhancement, bringing a touch of mysticism to the transformational journey. Initially optimistic about the seemingly removable toy watch, Jiang soon came to realize its necessity. He had to wear it constantly for a week, a requirement that challenged his initial enthusiasm. Sue, acting as his guide on this transformative journey, reminded Jiang of the importance of outdoor exercise to improve his aura. However, this suggestion elicited a distasteful expression from him, hinting at potential problems ahead. Finding himself immersed in a vigorous workout in a park full of spectators, Jiang initial optimism turned to growing embarrassment. The public setting added a layer of vulnerability to his transformative journey. While he was training in the park, some spectators recognized Jiang, and soon gossip and ridicule began to spread among the crowd. The public attention intensified the challenges of his physical transformation, exposing him to judgment and comments from others. Adding humor to the situation, an elderly woman in the crowd compared Jiang to the old man's brother, drawing laughter from the onlookers. The unexpected comparison highlighted the humorous and often unpredictable nature of public perception. A curious child in the crowd couldn't help but praise Jiang Ya's 7-color transforming watch, expressing admiration and wondering if it was the latest model. The child's innocent curiosity added a touch of positivity to the crowd. On the other hand, another child boldly declared that his own watch was far superior, dismissing Jiang Ya's as nothing more than a mere imitation. This assertion introduced an element of rivalry among the children, sparking a small but lively discussion in the onlooking crowd. The crowd's gossip continued to mount, and Jiang Ya found himself at the center of misconceptions and judgments. Despite his growing embarrassment, he remained resolute, choosing to ignore the crowd's opinions and focusing on his commitment to the process of transformation. Noticing the crowd's reaction, two troublemakers seized the opportunity to exploit Jiang Ya for money. This unfolding situation hints at the potential problems and unexpected consequences that can arise when someone finds themselves in the spotlight in a public setting. Confronted by the troublemaking duo, Jiang Ya remained surprisingly unperturbed, standing his ground in the face of their intimidation. His unwavering demeanor provoked their sudden retreat, revealing a strength within him they hadn't anticipated. The failed attempt at intimidation forced the troublemakers to retreat and, realizing their mistake, hastily apologize. Jiang Ya's resilience in the face of adversity demonstrated his resolve and hinted at the newfound confidence he drew from his transformative journey. Intrigued by the crowd's reaction, Jiang Ya, attuned to the energy surrounding him, sensed a distinct demonic aura. Contemplating the potential connection between this aura and his continued leveling, he found himself drawn into a deeper exploration of the mystical forces at work in his journey. Recognizing the possibility of further advancement, Jiang Ya, inspired by his recent experiences, prepared for the battle ahead. The anticipation of a new challenge infused excitement and determination into his evolving narrative, setting the stage for the next chapter in his transformative journey. Within the eerie confines of an abandoned factory, a subordinate relayed disturbing news to his boss. Jiang Ya's unusual presence had disrupted the flow of defense funds, leaving them without the expected benefit. This abnormal circumstance required the boss's attention. Responding to his subordinate's report, the boss, his eyes ominous and red, made a decisive decision to confront Jiang Ya directly. The decision to confront the source of the unrest hinted at the boss's determination to maintain control and restore order within his territory. As the boss and his associates confidently entered the factory, Jiang Ya, apparently anticipating their arrival, assumed a bold stance. Upon learning of their pursuit, he calmly declared there was no need to search for him. He had already arrived. His confident demeanor set the stage for a confrontation that would determine the balance of power in this desolate environment. In this contrasting setting, Sue, engrossed in her virtual game, belatedly sensed the impending battle. Perceiving the situation as an exercise, she brought a unique perspective to the unfolding events, viewing the inevitable clash as a challenge to be overcome within her game. The fusion of virtual and real-world experiences added further complexity to the narrative. Having identified Jiang Ya as a potential threat, the gangsters, recognizing the gravity of the situation, warned their boss of the impending confrontation. Their cautious tone reflected an acknowledgement of the unknown variables presented by Jiang Ya, and urged the boss to approach the meeting with caution. When gangsters surrounded Jiang Ya, intent on establishing control, they inadvertently found themselves trapped by his strategic position. This unexpected turn of events revealed Jiang Ya's cunning and strategic prowess, setting the stage for a confrontation in which the balance of power appeared more unstable than initially anticipated. At the start of the meeting, Jiang Ya, undaunted by his numerical superiority, prepared for the coming confrontation. His willingness to face the challenge head-on demonstrated a resolve that transcended the mere physicality of the situation, bringing an element of determination and purpose. Amidst the unfolding action, Sue, engrossed in her virtual game, suddenly realized she'd forgotten to mention the dual purpose of the upcoming battle, a form of exercise. The juxtaposition of the tense real-world confrontation with Sue's forgetfulness in the virtual world added humor to the unfolding narrative. One of the gang members introduced Jiang Ya to his boss, painting a vivid picture of his supposed malevolence and advising caution in dealing with this formidable adversary. The emphasis on caution reflected an acknowledgement of Jiang Ya's potential threat and the need for strategic consideration. As tensions escalated, two gangsters in the group urged their comrades to engage in aggression, claiming it was the key to success in their gangland endeavors. This call for aggression hinted at the internal dynamics and values that define the gang's approach to problem-solving, adding to the urgency of the upcoming confrontation. Undaunted by the mounting tension and confident in his newfound strength, Jiang prepared for the upcoming battle. Knowing that victory was now within his grasp, his determination and preparedness demonstrated the progress he had made. The stage was set for a clash that would test not only his physical prowess, but also his strategic acumen in the complex dynamics of gangs. Seeing Jiang Ya's confident smile sent a shiver down their spines. It spoke of countless life-or-death encounters. His comrade recognized him as a seasoned warrior and urged the others to reconsider their approach. Jiang Ya, recklessly, extended his hand, allowing one of his opponents to absorb the force of his blow. This provocative gesture set the tone for the upcoming clash, demonstrating his confidence in his own abilities. After delivering a swift blow to his opponent's stomach, Jiang Ya calmly ordered him to surrender. His seamless blend of physical prowess and strategic communication underscored his mastery of the unfolding situation, bringing an element of control to the confrontation. As the opponents nervously examined their chests, a collective sense of relief washed over them. The fear of injury briefly gripped their minds as Jiang Ya struck, but to their relief, they emerged unharmed. The unexpected turn of events infused the brawl with a certain intrigue and relief. Amidst the brawl and the seemingly innocuous toy watch, the artifact at the heart of it all suddenly came to life. The watch's activation hinted at its hidden powers, introducing an element of mystery and potential surprise into the ongoing confrontation. Laughter erupted as the first opponent shrugged off Jiang Ya's blow. Their initial impression was of him as a formidable fighter, but they discovered he was merely a middle-aged man with a playful accessory. Undeterred, they chose to attack together, recognizing the need to overcome the unexpected resilience. Armed with a staff, they approached, aiming for Jiang Ya's arms. In a reflexive attempt to protect himself, he took the brunt of their attack. Surprisingly, the staff, intended for harm, yielded to the unexpected force. A metallic clang echoed as it collided with the unexpectedly sturdy barrier, leaving Jiang Ya and his attackers bewildered and astonished. He said the road had curved when it hit him, and that he still had to test his body's strength after the cleansing. The bandits around him were shocked. Jiang Ya took the rod and hit him on the head to try again, and then the rod bent. He smiled when he saw that nothing could hurt him anymore. The bandits surrounding the scene stood in shock and silence, finding the unfolding events utterly unbelievable. The unexpected turn of events left them bewildered, adding an element of surprise to the atmosphere. Skepticism gripped one gangster who couldn't comprehend the reality before him. Trying to verify the situation, he picked up a fire extinguisher and threw it straight at Jiang Ya's head. Jiang Ya, reacting to the blow, turned to face the source of the disturbance. Despite the powerful impact, he remained unharmed, as if the object had barely grazed him. His display of resilience left the audience in a state of disbelief, questioning the boundaries of reality before them. The bandit who initiated the attack, realizing his miscalculation, immediately fell to his knees in tears. Overcome with remorse, he began begging for mercy, admitting his wrongdoing in the face of Jiang Ya's seemingly invulnerable demeanor. This emotional response added complexity to the unfolding narrative, revealing the impact of Jiang Ya's display of power on those present. They decided to flee before Jiang Ya could react or do anything. As he ran, they called him crazy. He tried to stop them, saying he just wanted to ask something. Seeing that they wouldn't stop, he took gasoline and told them that if they didn't stop, he would set the place on fire, blowing up the factory. Then everyone would die, but he wouldn't. They surrendered immediately after hearing his words. Having taken control of the situation, Jiang Ya sternly ordered the gangsters to reveal the truth about their recent business dealings. He demanded complete transparency, urging them to reveal every detail of their recent activities. Meanwhile, vigilant guards stood guard at the underground base, monitoring the surrounding area for any signs of suspicious individuals or activity. The atmosphere within the secret facility was tense, as the guards remained on high alert, ready to respond to any potential threat. Inside the base, animals were scattered, and the base commander sat smoking among them. They planned to go up the mountain by midnight and shoot a large tiger. If they succeeded that night, they would go 3 years without hunting. He held up a card with a dark, dangerous aura and then said that with this card, they would not lose. 2 guards monitoring the underground base were puzzled why no one had come with them to change clothes yet. They arrived 10 minutes late and asked if they were the ones feeding the mosquitoes at the base. They turned to Jiang Ya, who was working towards Mandiba, glad that at least one of them was approaching. They asked why it took him so long to arrive and asked if he was the only one who came. He apologized and said that he had some game and his stomach was hurting, so he came first. They reminded him of how many times they'd warned them not to open his own kitchen and complained about how they'd been standing there for so long. But once he took out his cigarettes, their complaints subsided. Jiang Ya told them to give him a break, and then told them that they should come and smoke a cigarette. It was actually a good thing. They liked the cigarette and also felt that it was quite good and convenient. They asked him what brand it was and said they hadn't seen it before. 2 minutes after smoking, they passed out. Jiang told them that, of course, it was convenient, because it was the best Yakushika Sutra recipe in the book Su had given him. He tied up the other guards, who were also smoking and misbehaving. They had no idea what was going on, and then kept them behind the walls. He remembered getting information about the warehouse from the green-haired bandit he'd beaten up. If they hadn't had the courage to inspect the warehouse, he had, so he was going to see it. When Jiang opened the warehouse door, an unbearable putrid smell, like the stench of a powerful sin, wafted through the air. The dark, ominous aroma hung heavily in the air, creating an unsettling atmosphere. The heavy smell emanating from the warehouse hinted at something deeply disturbing, a smell tainted with the essence of a great sin, adding to the gravity of the situation. Determined to uncover the source of the ominous smell, Jiang turned on the light in the warehouse, illuminating the space and revealing the secrets hidden within. The sight that greeted Jiang inside the warehouse was shocking and left him speechless. The contents of the room presented a disturbing scene that exceeded his expectations and evoked a visceral reaction to the disturbing scene. The warehouse contained a macabre collection: dead animals, living animals, and the skeletal remains of various creatures, all coexisting in a macabre tableau. This discovery plunged Jiang into a realm of horror, as the stark contrast between life and death unfolded before him in the confined space of the warehouse. The disturbing sight of the warehouse revealed a disturbing inventory, numerous endangered animals and plants, which alarmed Jiang. He was consumed by speculation. Was the warehouse the center of a poaching ring, facilitating the illegal trade that threatened these vulnerable species? As Jiang continued to explore the warehouse, his dissatisfaction grew as he realized the scale of exploitation. The grim reality of the endangered animals and plants trapped within this space weighed heavily on him, fueling a sense of urgency to address the injustice he faced. Suddenly, the bear slammed its paw against the cage in front of him, catching Jiang off guard. The sudden and unexpected movement made him cry out, revealing the tension and fear permeating the surroundings. The bear, apparently upset or agitated, echoed Jiang cry, emitting a loud and terrifying roar within its cage. The encounter heightened the confrontational atmosphere. The bear seemed ready to defend itself from the perceived threats. Jiang compassion deepened as he observed the animals in captivity, their confinement a stark contrast to the freedom they should have enjoyed. The realization of their limited existence evoked profound sadness, strengthening his resolve to improve the plight of these imprisoned creatures. Despite the bear's attempts to communicate, Jiang found himself unable to understand the meaning of its sounds. Language and species barriers prevented any meaningful understanding between them. Suddenly, inspiration struck Jiang mind like a light bulb, illuminating his thoughts. It dawned on him, a potential solution that could bridge the communication gap and reveal the messages hidden in the bear's attempts to convey something important. In the sinful world, the big bear was too tall and shouted that the sinful land belonged to him. Since he was a black bear, he was not going to let anyone go. But his speech was interrupted when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He was momentarily at a loss. The hand led him out of the sinful world into the modern world. Jiang coated the bear's neck with a crust and told him to interpret what the bear in the cage was saying. The bear's sinful world was momentarily confused. Then, after a moment, it dawned on him that he was no longer in the sinful world, that he was free, and the aura around him was the smell of Reiki. He cried out in joy that he was free and no longer trapped in this sinful world, that he, the spirit of the black bear, had finally come out. Jiang called him and told him to turn around. The bear asked who dared to provoke him as he turned around. When he saw the special weapon of the sinful guardian of the world, he immediately recognized it. He knelt before the warden and thanked him for his hard work, then apologized for not seeing him and greeting him earlier. Jiang told him to translate what the bear in the cage said, and the black bear became angry and asked who dared to hold the black bear captive. He told him to hurry up and that he was holding him, wasn't he? So he told him to hurry up and translate. The bear told him that he would translate immediately. The black bear approached the bear in the cage and listened to him as he told him what had happened. She explained that she was a mother bear and a man with a fire stick had hunted them down and killed the entire family of black bears. She and her cub had escaped and were captured. Mama Bear cried, and then Black Bear told Jiang that Mama Bear had already become a wise person because of the actions she had taken. The black bear then turned to the warden and told him that he could smell that he didn't smell like the bad guys, so he wanted to beg him to save the mother bear and their babies. After listening to the translation, Jiang opened the door to the sinful world and threw the bear into the sinful world while shouting, saying that he was imprisoned by the word of sin in order to avenge his family. Hearing the bear's cry of pain as he passed through the door, he knew that his current demon release level was still very low and his whole body felt very weak. After this, he approached the mother bear who was in the cage and told her that he would deal with the poaching gang and that she should not worry. But there were other things he needed her help with. Deep in the forest, a wildlife warden carefully followed tracks that hinted at the presence of poachers, people who had previously damaged the fragile ecosystem by mercilessly killing wildlife. His intuition warned him that poachers were at it again, this time seeking to destroy the lives of other innocent creatures in the nearby forest. Among the trees, two gangsters observing the illegal operation were amused to see a mother bear fiercely protecting her precious cub. A wildlife warden quickly appeared, waving a pistol and sternly ordering them to cease their malicious actions. Within seconds, both gangsters lay wounded, victims of their own malice. The adamant guard vowed not to let them escape justice, his firearm resolutely aimed at the fallen attackers. The gang boss recognized the loyal ranger, recalling their previous encounter when he had been chased and shot. He asked for confirmation of the ranger's identity, claiming that luck would not be on the ranger's side this time. The unperturbed ranger was informed that the gang leader had strengthened his forces and was confident that he could not be stopped. The gangsters drew their weapons and took aim at both the ranger and the protective bear. In desperation, the ranger began to doubt the prevalence of lawlessness among the villains. Just as tensions reached their peak, Jiang materialized in front of the forester, declaring that justice would prevail now that he had arrived. Addressing the ranger, Jiang instructed him to inform the forest police and the landscape bureau of the current situation. Expressing concern, the ranger advised Jiang to be careful, emphasizing the need to urgently spread information about poaching. Observing the scene, one gang member expressed suspicion, doubting the sudden turn of events. Another gang member shared this opinion, confident that the boss hadn't missed a single shot. The gang leader's behavior changed. He acknowledged an uneasy feeling, a realization that something was wrong. Sensing the presence of a ghost card of this type, the gang leader decided to let Jiang exhaust his ghost energy, understanding the value of what the attacker possessed. Having given the order to his gang, the chief ordered them to release all their ammunition without fear. Jiang, momentarily puzzled, wondered if the gang leader knew about the Sin World, given his mention of valuable assets. The bullets were fired at Jiang, but none of them hit their target, and they inexplicably fell to the ground, reaching his face. Realizing they were out of ammo, the gang member informed the boss that, based on his experience, the remaining ammo should be sufficient. Approaching confidently, the gang leader held his ghost mark, expressing ignorance about the sect that had issued Jiang's ghost mark. Jiang, who suddenly appeared behind him, suspected the gang leader's involvement with the corrupt sect, especially after hearing him discuss the ghost map. The gang leader who tried to strike with a special stick found his efforts futile, indicating that Jiang was not an evil cultivator. Recalling the conversation with Su about the effectiveness of divine weapons only for cultivators, Jiang was surprised to learn that the gang leader was not an evil cultivator. The gang leader asked if Jiang's ghost map was an illusion, which prompted Jiang to recall her previous conversation with Su. Realizing that he couldn't fight the gang leader directly, Jiang prepared to teach him a lesson using an alternative approach. Using his powers, Jiang created a golden bed, surprising the gang leader with this unexpected display of mystical skill. By commanding the bird to summon wild animals, Jiang gathered a formidable congregation of creatures around him. In support of wildlife, Jiang addressed the gang leader, stating that he had sinned against these innocent creatures and was allowing nature itself to take justice. In a state of panic, the poachers found themselves surrounded by wild animals, realizing that their ammunition was exhausted and they were left defenseless. The gang leader, confused by the unexpected turn of events, doubted Jiang's identity, doubting the ghost card's ability to control animals and birds. Undeterred, Jiang boldly stated that he didn't expect the gang leader to believe that he could control animals, stating that if such a power existed, he would have used it long ago. Agreeing with the gang leader's skepticism, Jiang explained that he did not control the animals, but instead sought guidance from his ancestors, offering the wildlife a metaphorical lecture. Thus, he explained that his influence over beings came from a spiritual connection, rather than direct control. Taking charge, Jiang ordered the nearest wolf to approach and attack. The creature obediently followed his command. Seizing the opportunity, the gang leader rallied his associates, ordering them to gather around him. Despite some members' pleas, the boss assured them that working with wild animals was nothing new, urging them to confront any newcomers with deadly force, demonstratively declaring that they were not afraid. Jiang explained to them that wild animals usually roamed independently. However, the current situation made fighting them more manageable, as they were united. Using a strategy to organize all the animals, including the flying swordsman and the lizard, required careful positioning. Every attack on the wildlife proved futile, instilling fear as they realized their limitations. The gang leader felt a growing frustration as he faced the prospect of using the energy stored in his ghost card. Using such energy for this purpose would cost him 2 years of his life, leaving him with no alternative. As Fei Lui drove, she was haunted by memories of the ominous aura she'd sensed a few days earlier. Subsequently, the ghostly omen of an ominous journey heightened her anxiety, leaving her perplexed by recent events. Following a ghostly trail, she discovered a poacher's warehouse, but, alas, arrived too late, by a lucky chance. Suddenly, a forester came out of the forest and intercepted her car. Approaching her window, he warned her against further action, and, upon inquiry, informed her of the ongoing emergency that made the camping unsuitable. He was overcome with confusion when Fei mysteriously disappeared from her car, leaving him baffled. Puzzled by the supernatural events of that day, one impervious to bullets, another inexplicably disappearing, the ranger found the circumstances quite strange. Reflecting on the unusual series of coincidences, he noted the fearlessness in the face of bullets and the spontaneous disappearance, adding another layer of intrigue to the day's events. Chasing the ghostly trail again, Fei climbed a tree, following the scent she had first picked up a few days ago. Then she froze as she smelled the scent of sin ahead, a familiar scent from before. When the gang boss activated the ghost card, he was enveloped in an ominous purple light, forcibly repelling all nearby wild animals. Seeing the transformation into evil, the wild animals ran away, prompting him to order the white animals to leave the premises immediately. However, Jiang responded by unleashing his special weapon, launching an attack imbued with the power of the ghost card, a swarm of insects. He boldly asserted that his superior's malicious antics would not harm him. Reacting to the unfolding events, the boss launched an attack, forcing the surrounding plants to restrain Jiang. He casually instructed Jiang to enjoy his predicament while he prepared to leave. As he was about to leave, Fei appeared and cast her own spell, declaring him a demon doomed to punishment. Watching the struggle, Jiang asked if Fei had come to his aid, dismissing the power of the plants as a minor obstacle. Realizing the need to escape, the boss wasted no time in devising an exit strategy and launched attacks to distract their attention. Fei recognized the sheer number of reinforcements and acknowledged her inability to handle them all at once. Having chosen a strategic retreat, the boss used his reinforcements, ensuring an escape without losses. Pointing at the fleeing man, Jiang informed Fei that he had slipped out of their hands. Casting another spell, Fei commanded her bright red bird to apprehend the fleeing thief. The boss, determined to avoid capture, used a ghostly smoke vehicle to quickly move around. Jiang immediately realized the need to prevent his escape, emphasizing the importance of bypassing the protective spell cast on him. Sensing the right moment, Fei commanded the cinnabar blade to take effect. The scarlet bird complied, spewing fire from its mouth at the fleeing gang boss who was attempting to transfer the ghost, resulting in a fiery explosion. Despite the alarming vibrations, the boss explained to Fei that he was a virtuous man with demon-catching skills, albeit with a dark side. Jiang concentration wavered as he received notification that the demon had appeared again, urging him to quickly apprehend the elusive enemy. Having successfully taken possession of the bandit's body, the demon immediately asserted his dominance, declaring in no uncertain terms that the vessel was now his. However, faced with unexpected resistance from the original owner, who was unwilling to relinquish control, the demon found it difficult to maintain full possession of the body. The purple-haired girl, unable to ignore the strange situation, inquired about the man's condition. Jiang explained that the recent attack had rendered the man unconscious, giving the demon the opportune moment to take control. Observing the demon's immense power, Jiang noticed an increase in the Sin World's power flowing into his essence. Paradoxically, this inadvertently removed his body-enhancing artifact from the Sin World's grasp, granting him greater freedom of movement. After apologizing for her earlier suspicions, the purple-headed girl expressed her remorse to Jiang Yu, who graciously accepted her apology, understanding the nature of the misunderstanding. Despite the previous tension, they once again focused on the upcoming battle with the demon, each preparing their weapons, Jiang with her golden staff and the purple-headed girl with her talisman. Unexpectedly, before they could begin their advance, the demon slyly positioned itself behind the purple-headed girl, taunting her with comments about the enticing scent of her flesh. Quickly launching an attack to cut off her head, the demon was stopped by Jiang who instinctively used his hand as a shield to protect his companion. After biting Jiang hand, the demon recoiled, expressing disgust at the unfamiliar taste, prompting him to wonder about the nature of the disgusting substance. The enraged demon aggressively attacked Jiang Yaya and the purple-headed girl, scolding them for their supposed hypocrisy and repulsion while demanding their lives. Acknowledging the demon's overwhelming attack, the purple-haired girl expressed concern. However, Jiang Yai assured her that their defense lay not in physical strength, but in their unique skills. After the demon's attack, Jiang Yai felt a sinister infection in the place where he was struck, losing awareness of his surroundings, sight, and even the execution of his own attacks. Succumbing to a mysterious affliction, Jiang Yai collapsed to the ground, prompting the purple-headed girl to rush towards him, calling out to him in vain as he lost consciousness. Quickly administering the life-saving elixir, the purple-headed girl assured Jiang Yaya of its rapid effectiveness and urged him to flee immediately if time was of the essence. In a gesture of reconciliation for their previous misunderstanding, she explained that the elixir served as compensation, emphasizing her sincerity in helping him. Turning her attention to the demon, the purple-headed girl activated her true Battle Blood Talisman card, calling upon the power of Sprint, and warning the demon of the impending encirclement by thousands of righteous ones. Ignoring her warning, the demon mockingly shrugged off the force of her attack, responding with an active attack that hit her in the face. Laughing, the demon declared his intention to not only possess the purple-headed girl's body, but also to dominate the collective consciousness of righteous people throughout the world. Just as the demon was about to do harm, Jiang Yai re-entered the fray, surprising and alarming the purple-haired girl. She urgently urged him to flee before the demon turned its aggression on him. Despite her request, Jiang Yai declared his commitment to the battle, stating that he could not give up the fight and must stay to confront the malevolent entity. In response to the demon's question about Jiang Yai's choice of weapon, the sword, the conversation was interrupted as the demon hinted at a potential tactic to lower one's guard. Jiang Yai, addressing the demon, advised him to avoid excessive shyness, acknowledging that he, too, had recently learned these sword techniques. However, the main idea lingered in his mind. He resorted to blackmail pills to restore his blood. Upon hearing Jiang Yaya's revelation, the demon couldn't contain his disdain, calling him a mere martial artist. He questioned the audacity of Jiang Yaya's sneak attack. The imperturbable demon asserted his superiority, casually declaring the minor wound inflicted on him to be insignificant. With an air of arrogance, he declared he could correct it using the energy of his soul, warning against unjustified arrogance. Reflecting on the demon's mention of soul energy, the purple-haired figure couldn't help but recall its nature. Sharing this knowledge with Jiang Yai, she identified it as the Blood-Soul Curse, revealing a sinister connection. Revealing the ghost card's sinister origins, she explained that it was created through a blood-spirit spell, a malevolent spell that purifies the life force of mortals, feeding their souls. Recognizing the dangerous consequences of the demon's evil spell, she urged Jiang Yaya to exercise caution. Offering her assistance, she expressed her intention to momentarily delay the demon, giving it an opportunity to escape if it chose to do so. Ignoring the purple-haired girl's concerns, Jiang Yai reassured her. He declared himself a super soldier, confident in his ability to face any challenge. At the same time, he urged her to observe, emphasizing his ability to handle the situation with ease. Without hesitation, Jiang Yai quickly moved toward the menacing demon, assuring the purple-haired girl that he would return soon. In response, she anxiously advised him to exercise caution in the face of danger. The persistent demon taunted Jiang Yai, constantly urging him to come closer. With a maniacal laugh escaping his lips, the demon ominously promised that sooner or later, Jiang Yai's flesh would become his own. Using a dynamic strategy, Jiang Yai launched a flurry of attacks from various directions, skillfully dodging the demon's counterattacks. In a bold maneuver, he employed the cleaver martial art style, soaring into the sky with impressive agility. Taking the opportunity, the demon questioned Jiang Yaya about the martial arts power he had unleashed. With a look of malice, he declared his intention to kill him, but also suggested that such an attempt would be futile if he simply used martial arts. To the demon's astonishment, Jiang Yai vanished from the sky and reappeared right before him. With a decisive movement, he plunged his golden sword into the demon's heart, leaving him in shock and agony. Jiang Yai explained that he used a sword-slashing technique specifically designed to defeat demons like his opponent. Jiang Yai then revealed that he had used the ghost sword style to disguise the true nature of his attack. With a mischievous grin, he asked the demon if he understood his tactics, maintaining a knowing expression. Rejecting the demon with a vulgar gesture, Jiang Yai asserted his superiority in single combat, claiming that despite the demon's age advantage, he was the preeminent lone assassin in the country. Recognizing Jiang Yai's prowess, the demon acknowledged his worth as a formidable opponent among many. The unfazed demon declared the invincibility of his blood-soul spell, claiming that as long as his soul body remained intact, his soul energy would be preserved, making him immortal. Amused by the demon's bravado, Jiang Yai urged him to realize the gravity of his predicament and ordered him to examine the wound on his chest. Confused, the demon inquired about Jiang Yaya's cryptic statement, but soon realized his soul energy was dissipating. Confused, he wondered where his elusive soul energy was. Jiang Yai took the opportunity to explain that his only goal in confronting the demon was to get closer to the demon by opening the door to the world of sin. As the demon groaned in agony, Jiang Yai bid him farewell, pushing him towards the door of the sin world with triumphant determination. In the world of sin, another man boasted of his sword skills and pondered the possibility of living without them, a manifestation of the madness of the sword. Sensing the intrusion, the figure turned and marveled at the demon's soul energy, finding it a powerful tonic. He scolded the demon for its brazen intrusion into his domain. Exhausted but victorious, Jiang Yai and the purple-headed girl lay on the ground, sighing in relief as they accepted that it was finally over. Despite his recent victory over the evil demon, Jiang Yai found a lingering, uneasy feeling within him, a nagging sense that something was wrong, as if the malevolent force hadn't been completely eradicated. However, he struggled to pinpoint the source of his uneasiness, or understand the reasons for this constant unrest. At the same time, a demon suddenly awoke on the summit of a distant mountain, letting out a piercing scream. Furiously questioning, the demon sought answers to the question of who had sent his double. The young man, assuming a leadership role, ordered a fellow police officer to lead him to the location where the captured bandits were being held. Pushing the officer forward, he emphasized the urgency of their mission. He then informed the police officer of a well-wishing citizen in need of rescue, emphasizing the need to expedite their intervention and save the said person. Their shock intensified when they reached the spot where the bandits had been captured. To their surprise, the criminals were sprawled out, some asleep, while others were suspended in unconventional positions, leaving the young man and the policeman momentarily speechless. Explaining the scene, the young man claimed that the figures lying on the ground were indeed the killers. However, their leader was conspicuously absent, forcing them to turn their attention to his whereabouts. Heading in a different direction, they encountered the leader, who was exhibiting erratic behavior, walking aimlessly, singing and dancing with abandon. The young man and the policeman watched in stunned silence, struggling to comprehend the inexplicable transformation of the leader and his group. As Jiang Yai and the purple-haired girl, along with the young man and the policeman, pursued the enraged leader, urging him to stop, Jiang Yai couldn't help but think that justice had finally been served. He expected the killer to be apprehended and subsequently sentenced to a significant prison term, perhaps 8 to 10 years. Amidst these thoughts, the purple-headed girl expressed confidence that they would be rewarded for their virtuous deed when they eventually returned. Intrigued, Jiang Yai turned to her, bringing them into close proximity, and asked about the nature of the reward. The purple-headed girl blushed as she replied shyly, begging him to keep some distance due to their closeness, her face turning red. Quickly responding to her discomfort, Jiang Yai quickly apologized, assuring her that he would step back for a moment once he had adjusted his situation. To his surprise, when he discovered the bodybuilder within him had become active, he panicked and urgently shouted at her to clear a path. However, she remained perplexed, unable to comprehend the unfolding situation. Suddenly he collapsed on top of her, his face awash with shame as the bodybuilder wrested control of his body. The purple-haired girl, confused and distrustful, couldn't help but look at him in amazement. Reacting quickly, she pushed him away, her disappointment obvious. After a powerful shove, she screamed and slapped Jiang Yaya across the face. Embarrassingly, he could only stare back, her displeasure now etched on his cheek. Gathering her strength, she cleared her throat and addressed Jiang Yayu, expressing understanding for his recent loss of strength in their battle. However, she sternly rebuked him, insisting that such actions not be repeated. Explaining further the nature of the award, she said it was a collective effort, funded by several respected sects, to recognize and reward those who stood for righteousness. She then questioned Jiang Yai about his treasure, asking if it was a storage vessel and whether there were any potential dangers associated with it. Speechless, Jiang Yai struggled to formulate an answer. Continuing her investigation, she persisted, asking if the treasure was nameless and urging him, as a practitioner, to hand it over to the Cultivator Alliance for identification to avoid potential danger. Rejecting the offer, Jiang Yai declared it unnecessary, suddenly remembering he'd forgotten to turn off the stove before engaging the demon. Opening the door, he indicated he was leaving. Before the purple-haired girl could react, he walked through the door, closing it behind him. Left in despair, she expressed her irritation, asking why he couldn't offer her a ride. Appearing on the other side of his home's door, Jiang Yai breathed a sigh of relief, grateful that he had left before the purple-headed girl could question him further. Upon his return, Su threw the box at him, announcing that his alchemical potion was ready. However, she informed him that his alchemical furnace was faulty and urged him to replace it with a new one by the next day. Confused by the mention of a potion furnace, Jiang struggled to understand the concept, wondering if it had anything to do with his pressure cooker. Determined to solve the mystery, he headed to the kitchen and discovered that the potion oven was none other than his beloved pressure cooker, now destroyed, leaving his kitchen in disarray. Overwhelmed by grief over the state of his ruined kitchen, Kangria was on the verge of tears. Su, on the other hand, looked at him with understanding, acknowledging his actions on that fateful day. She assured him of a promising future, calling him by the affectionate name Kangria. Before delving into current affairs, Su expressed a desire to witness how Kangria would handle the upcoming encounter with the elusive old ghoul who had not yet appeared. Unlocking the box Jiang entrusted to her, Su opened it only to discover he was hesitant to consume the elixir she had created. Undeterred, she insisted he participate, claiming he lacked a sense of what was beneficial. Jiang responded by pointing to the uniform round shape of the objects, wondering who would dare eat such a dark dish. Undeterred by his resistance, Su sternly urged him to prepare for the coming battle. Showing her disappointment, she forced his mouth open and poured a dark substance down his throat, emphasizing the need for his physical development. Jiang watched helplessly as the dark mixture entered his system, pondering the consequences of the imminent battle. Inquisitive, Jiang asked for clarification on which button to press, but Su insisted he must engage in battle on his own. She announced her departure to gather herbs for him, assuring him that these herbs would contribute to his physical development. Before leaving, Su lovingly handed him a bag of savings, urging him to carry it with him wherever he went. Placing it on the table where Jiang lay, she reminded him to use it in fights or any other endeavor. As Jiang pondered the upcoming battle, Su's mention of it lingered in his thoughts, prompting him to consider whether he should learn more about his opponent or the specifics of the confrontation. While pondering this, a boy entered and confidently stood before Jiang asking if there were any cakes available for purchase. The boy, smiling, placed some money on the table, expressing his desire to buy. Jiang was struggling with thoughts of the upcoming battle when a boy, supposedly a customer, approached him, trying to purchase one of his cakes. Apologizing, Jiang checked his drawer only to realize he was out of cakes due to intense training. He apologized to the disappointed child, explaining that he was out of cakes. Undeterred, the next day Jiang visited the old man Lao Zhou's establishment, expressing his intention to replenish his supplies for the day. Seeing the exorbitant prices of ice cream, Jiang couldn't help but comment on its unaffordability, expressing his financial difficulties to old man Lao Zhou. Speaking to old man Lao Zhou in a gentle tone, Jiang asked for a more reasonable price, urging his acquaintance to make a profitable deal. After engaging in polite conversation, Jiang asked for a reasonable price, emphasizing their mutual acquaintance to ensure a more economical deal. The digital clock on the wall flashed the elongated numbers 5 to 8 6, but old Lao Zhou, weathered by time, suddenly spun on his heel. With surprising agility, he lunged at Jiang sinking his teeth into his arm with a fury that caused crimson rivers of blood to flow. The unexpected attack prompted Jiang to demand an explanation, baffled by the fact that Lao Zhou's body, seemingly robust with healthy bone marrow, succumbed to the pressure of the biting teeth with astonishing ease. Looking at his arm, tendrils of purple smoke billowing from the wound, Jiang couldn't shake the feeling that some poisonous force was trying to infect him. The eerie sight piqued his curiosity, causing him to ponder the nature of this sinister art. Undeterred, Old Man Cho launched a new attack, forcing Jiang to draw his golden sword. At that moment, he couldn't ignore the realization that this was the very confrontation Su had warned him about. Faced with Old Man Cho's aggression, Jiang declared his friendship and vowed to protect his comrade even at the cost of his life. Repeated blows to Old Man Cho's head caused the elderly attacker to collapse to the ground. Jiang, assessing the aftermath, concluded that he had done everything possible to save his friend. Without hesitation, he put Old Man Chow on his tricycle and rushed towards the hospital at breakneck speed. Rushing to the hospital, Jiang encountered a crowd of people. Desperate to reach his destination, he begged them to make way, emphasizing the urgency of the situation. Suddenly, the crowd turned and stared at him. A collective movement followed as they rushed toward him, revealing the disturbing truth: they were under some kind of malevolent influence. Observing the townspeople's strange behavior, Jiang couldn't figure out the cause. Muttering the word biohazard, he sensed a pervasive threat in the air. An old demon grinned triumphantly on the roof of the hospital building. It became clear that he had orchestrated this mass manipulation, holding the entire city under his evil sway. Realizing that relying solely on his whip against the crowd would be futile, Jiang considered the dire situation. The sheer number of people being manipulated dissuaded him from trying his luck. Recognizing that violence was not the solution, Jiang considered alternative methods to save the townspeople from the clutches of manipulation. He recognized the risk of causing them irreparable harm if he resorted to force. Faced with the urgency of the situation, Jiang decided to flee on his tricycle, buying time to strategize and develop a more long-term solution to free the townspeople from the mysterious control. As he maneuvered through the stricken city, it dawned on him. Manipulation had ensnared every citizen. The enormity of the predicament weighed heavily on him, compelling him to seek a comprehensive solution to this all-encompassing crisis. Jiang noticed the large-scale impact on the entire city and couldn't help but regard it as a serious problem given his lack of knowledge of magic. As he thought about this, he realized that he was on the verge of colliding with one of the residents while riding a tricycle. In a hasty response, he dismounted his tricycle to avoid harming the townspeople. Sensing something was wrong, he couldn't resist acknowledging the problem when the tricycle stopped. This made it obvious, and he was genuinely concerned that he had inadvertently caused harm to the townspeople. Reflecting on the situation, he expressed suspicion that the affected people resembled those who were affected by the ghost card in the previous meeting. Alternatively, he wondered if this incident was related to a previous incident he had witnessed. Arguing that if this were the case, then the solution to this problem would be simple, since he had the power to use any object that fell within the realm of sin. Therefore, he ordered the ghost card to be handed over to him, intending to use it to stop the manipulated people. As he watched the manipulated woman sprawled on the ground, he couldn't help but let out a scream, realizing that the ghost card had powerful capabilities, serving as a random means to thwart the attackers. Recognizing its exceptional effectiveness, he came to the conclusion that propriety should not limit him in its use. Indeed, he decided to deploy it unreservedly, exploiting its full potential. A wave of manipulated people descended upon him, prompting him to quickly present his ghost card, ready to take decisive action. When the manipulated townspeople saw the ghost map, their cohesion disintegrated, hindering their progress towards Jiang. Observing this phenomenon, Jiang, instead of being overconfident, could not suppress his anxiety, loudly asking about the whereabouts of the evil mastermind. Before he could continue to reveal the mastermind's whereabouts, the ghost map clutched in his hand fell victim to a sneak attack. Throwing away the ruined ghost card, he looked around his surroundings, asking about the attacker with his throbbing wounded hand. The revealed mastermind, the demon, confronted Jiang, claiming his ancient origins and emphasizing that even Jiang ancestors had not yet been born at the time of his birth. Explaining this, the demon urged Jiang to listen carefully to his introduction. Towering with an unyielding appearance, he proclaimed himself the offspring of the Corpse King Shogun named Bile. Unperturbed, young Jiang expressed skepticism, assuming the demon seemed malicious. He demanded the demon explain the poisoning of the entire city, attributing it to Kang Jiang's family. With an eccentric grin, the demon hinted at a connection with the sinful word in Jiang's possession as a possible catalyst for the disaster. When Jiang was faced with a crucial decision, he found himself at a crossroads, torn between willingly cooperating with the formidable creature before him or giving in to the sinister alternative of coercion through force. In response to the demon's alarming proposal, Jiang maintained his composure, displaying a calm and collected demeanor. He expressed relief, apparently unfazed by the otherworldly being's alarming words. Raising his golden staff in an authoritative manner, Jiang declared that the upcoming confrontation was a battle he was eagerly anticipating, showing his willingness to participate in the coming conflict. Quickly springing into action, he aggressively attacked the demon with his shining golden staff, using a formidable offensive maneuver to gain the upper hand in the ensuing fight. However, Jiang's confidence quickly turned to astonishment when the demon easily dodged his attack, responding with a mocking laugh. The unexpected turn of events left Jiang visibly shaken and surprised. Seizing the opportunity, the demon dismissed the encounter as a simple blow, downplaying its significance. He informed Jiang that there was no cause for alarm or surprise, something that had diminished the Yang family's apparent strength over the years. Reflecting on the passage of time, the demon expressed skepticism about the Yang family's supposed rise in power. This comment paved the way for a further exchange of blows and words between the two adversaries. With a dismissive gesture, the demon slapped his finger on Jiang's golden staff, noting the unexpected fragility of the realm's ruler's weapon. The staff, which had broken under the pressure, left Jiang perplexed. Despite the setback, Jiang urged them to continue their ongoing battle, urging the demon to continue its efforts. Undeterred, he tasked the demon with playing its part in the unfolding conflict. Using one of his most powerful techniques, the thrusting sword style, Jiang aimed for the demon's heart with a precision that instilled a sense of awe in his formidable opponent. As the battle intensified, the demon, now faced with a formidable technique, taunted Jiang, revealing his cultivation mastery of corpse drought, a skill focused on eliminating qi and blood. Jiang powerful techniques aimed at the demon's heart caused the enemy to react with a mixture of pride and disdain at the sight of the weapon in Jiang hands. In that moment of revelation, the demon acknowledged the origins of Jiang weapon, contrasting it with the superior craftsmanship of his ancestors. This realization intensified the demon's anger at Jiang choice of weapon. Enraged by Jiang perceived inadequacy, the demon launched a menacing attack, prompting Jiang to use all his skills to evade the oncoming assault. Boasting of his control over the cultivation of the corpse drought, the demon threatened to cut off Jiang hand, the very hand that opened the worlds of sin, claiming that Jiang had reached the limit of his capabilities. Showing his superiority, the demon arrogantly declared that Jiang should admit his inferiority as he dealt a decisive blow to Jiang leg from behind. Reveling in his dominance, the demon insisted that Jiang admit defeat, emphasizing the vast difference in their strength and capabilities. Continuing to elaborate on his ancient story, the demon recounted his long period of slumber, during which he used the energy of his corpse to observe the outside world. He expressed disbelief at encountering the world of sin and lamented his inability to remain invisible. Despite the demon's overwhelming power, he offered Jiang an alternative, the chance to surrender. However, this offer was made on the condition that Jiang become a blood slave, a prospect Jiang categorically rejected. Undeterred by the demon's offer, Jiang looked the fearsome creature in the eye and immediately refused, preferring disobedience to the prospect of being enslaved by the demon's bloody pact. At this critical moment, the demon threateningly warns him that if he does not cooperate, the consequences will include fighting him through the manipulation of his terrifying puppets. Taking command of his evil puppets, he orders them to attack Jiang, while ominously predicting that his fleshy puppets will torment him mercilessly for the rest of his existence. Seeing his impending doom, Jiang realized the gravity of the situation with a heavy heart. Although Su had left him the bag, it seemed futile, as entering the Sin world, his only source of potential help, was no longer an option. Suddenly, a figure appears, waving a talisman and rushing towards Jiang. A mysterious purple-headed girl attaches a talisman to Jiang body, surprising him with its healing properties. Before he can express his gratitude, she advises him to seek reinforcements, as her talismans can only repel a limited number of attacks. Turning to face the enemy, she prepares numerous talismans, preparing for the coming battle. By launching attacks with her talismans, she calls upon Jiang to quickly provide support in the event of an impending conflict. The demon, unable to contain his curiosity, asks about the Tiangxin school's talisman set, expressing disdain for their tactics. After the battle, Jiang asks the purple-haired girl about the mysterious pouch. She confirms it's the forbidden treasure, the world of sins, which he couldn't mention earlier. By immediately agreeing, Jiang opens up the world of sins, revealing its contents. Having retrieved the bag from the world of sin, Jiang confidently declares her intention to reveal its contents. Showing a proud smile, he opens the pouch, stating that the demon he encountered earlier will surely meet his death with the item contained inside. Observing the powerful aura emanating from the pouch, the demon becomes wary, realizing the potential danger if Jiang succeeds. Jiang, however, beams with happiness as she reveals the pouch's contents, only to be shocked to discover a kitchen knife along with a note from Su, explaining that it is a unique weapon created for him. Holding a knife, Jiang explains the situation to the purple-headed girl, dismissing any concerns and expressing her familiarity with kitchen knife tactics. An unflappable purple-haired girl encourages him, believing in his abilities for the upcoming battle. Despite her skepticism, Jiang reassures her by highlighting her skill with a kitchen knife. With renewed determination, they once again rush into battle against the demons and their puppets. Confused, the demon searches for his puppets, prompting him to question the purple-headed girl about their whereabouts. Before he can elaborate, Jiang surprises him with a swift attack, claiming that if the whip doesn't defeat him, the kitchen knife certainly will. Rejecting Jiang trust, the demon insists that a simple kitchen knife cannot penetrate the body of a corpse. Unfazed, Jiang raises the kitchen knife high and strikes the demon on the head, leaving the demon confused and stating that such an occurrence should be impossible. Acknowledging the effectiveness of the kitchen knife, Jiang enjoys mocking the demon, recalling his previous skepticism. Jiang Yai continues to mock the demon, who admits defeat, no longer able to maintain his true form. In a desperate move, the demon transforms into its true demonic form, contemplating using Jiang Yaya and the Sin world to create a new body. However, Jiang Yai assured him that death had visited him many times, and he no longer feared a mere demon. Contemplating the usefulness of a kitchen knife, he considered using it as a weapon against a malevolent entity. In the midst of the attack, the kitchen knife was suddenly snatched from Jiang Yaya's hands by the now transformed demon. Jiang Yai, tightly gripped by the demon's tentacle-like appendages, found himself unable to break free from the entity's grip. The demon whose tentacles were entangling Jiang Yai looked at him with a mixture of rage and malice, furiously urging him to meet his death. Lifting Jiang Yai with its octopus-like limbs, the demon attempted to strangle him in midair. Despite the danger, Jiang Yai pointedly informed the demon that the confrontation was far from over. In an instant, he brought a kitchen knife toward himself. As a kitchen knife materialized in Jiang Yaya's hands, he quickly used it to cut off the tightly coiled octopus limb that had trapped him. This distraction caught the demon off guard, giving Jiang Yayu the opportunity to evade and retreat from the malevolent entity. Watching Jiang Yai flee, the demon, now enraged, decided that Jiang Yai of the Yang family would become his prey. However, before the demon's attack could reach Jiang Yaya, a purple-haired girl materialized, creating a protective barrier. She demanded that the demon release Jiang Yaya. Urging Jiang Yaya to flee, the purple-haired girl promised to use her immense powers to thwart the demon's pursuit. Jiang Yaya, however, rejected the offer, claiming he had already devised a plan. The intrigued purple-haired girl inquired about the plan, but the demon dismissed Jiang Yaya's intentions as mere bragging. Undeterred, Jiang Yai showed him the piece of paper Su had given him, which outlined a strategic plan that involved activating the brocade beetle and waiting 3 minutes for her arrival. Before the demon could react, Jiang Yai triumphantly announced Su's presence, happily pointing to the newly opened portal. As Su emerged from the portal, she floated in the air, leaving both the purple-haired girl and the evil demon stunned and speechless. Su playfully complained to Jiang Yayu about being interrupted while watching a movie, teasing him about paying for her ticket. In response, the demon was struck by Su's powerful aura and doubted her identity. Amused, Su hinted at a connection with the remains of the corpse of Taoism left behind by Shogun Bile. The imperturbable demon insisted that Su reveal her cult, but she dismissively called him a child who spoke nonsense. Confused, the demon struggled to find Su, realizing he could not see her or sense her presence. The confused demon looked around in a vain attempt to locate the elusive Su. He also wondered if this incredible display of agility was simply a result of her masterful speed technique, or if it was simply a testament to her exceptional physical strength. However, Su suddenly materialized next to him, asking about his search, and advising him to abandon pretense and enter the coming battle without hesitation. However, he communicated to Su his hesitation to meet her face to face, expressing uncertainty about her seniority and expressing a desire to leave. With determination, he plunged his octopus-like hands into the ground, thinking that it would be wiser to launch an attack rather than wait for imminent danger. Jiang Yai was stunned as the demon octopus's hands turned into razor-sharp claws that emerged from the ground and trapped them in an inescapable position. As the demon's appendages transformed into deadly claws, mercilessly digging into the earth around them, the prospect of escape seemed increasingly elusive. Su immediately dismissed the unfolding spectacle as a mere childish prank, challenging Jiang Yayu to prepare for the upcoming confrontation, to which he responded without hesitation. To begin the battle, Su decided to use her popcorn as an unconventional weapon against the demonic foe, throwing it with precision in the absence of any other available item or weapon. The demon watched in disbelief as the seemingly harmless popcorn turned into a razor-sharp projectile that nearly sliced through his skin. A remarkable occurrence that left him questioning the nature of such an unexpected transformation. Seeing his octopus limbs being torn off one by the popcorn's sharpness, the demon struggled with the intense pain and the realization of the popcorn's unexpectedly deadly nature. By cutting off parts of his body, he expressed his inability to endure excruciating pain, which prompted him to reveal his final move and defiantly declare that Su would not be able to defeat him. Using his final technique, he sacrificed his chi and blood, ensuring his resurrection and imbuing him with a lingering corpse aura, marking the emergence of a ruthless and formidable opponent. Su seemed tired of playing with the remains of the Taoist man. She declared she would no longer hold him, raising her hand to channel her energy. Su raised her left hand to use yin energy and lowered her right hand to manipulate yang energy. In this synchronized movement, she created a reverse yin and yang formation, By directing the reverse yin and yang energy towards the inert body of the Taoist man standing at the core of the formation, he reciprocated by releasing his own powers. Despite the Taoist man's constant efforts to circulate his energy, he discovered he had regressed into a mortal. Perplexed by this transformation, considering that his corpse's qi had persisted for millennia, he questioned this inexplicable turn of events. Still pondering, Jiang quickly walked over with his weapon, declaring that it was now his turn to join the fight. After striking the Taoist man on the head, he flew off, spewing blood. Jiang quickly opened a portal to the world of sins, ordering him to leave his qi and blood behind and serve his punishment. The portal swallowed the Taoist man, causing Su to leap joyfully as she tore out her ethereal forms. Jiang expressed joy, albeit with concern, hoping the Taoist man wouldn't face excessive cruelty in the world of sin. Su grabbed the cloud forms and happily stuffed them into Jiang's mouth. She explained that this was the final medicine for refining his body, unclaimed qi and blood. Jiang asked why he was consuming unused qi and blood, even though she had promised to collect medicine for him. Su insisted that corpse qi was the optimal medicine, indicating that now that he had successfully refined his body, it was time to confront adversity. Pointing to the sky, Su drew Jiang's attention to the approaching thunder and lightning, leaving him flinching. Looking up at the sky with the girl who saved him, Jiang exclaimed in awe as the disaster seemed overwhelming and threatening. The girl who saved Jiang wondered why this ordeal was so different from her own experience cultivating her body. She recalled how, back then, she had been protected by magical formations, potions, and weapons. Inquiring about the abnormal intensity of the tribulation, the girl asked Su if such a powerful ordeal was normal. Jiang, still fixated on heaven, noted that it surpassed the ascension ordeals mentioned in the book. Su wondered if this was truly a test of physical refinement, as her own experience had been unlike any other. She vividly described lying on a metal surface when lightning struck her. Jiang and the rescued girl were shocked to read the description of her misfortune. Inwardly questioning the deviation from her previous experience, Su wondered if such intensity was normal. Jiang and the rescued girl were clearly stunned. Suddenly, lightning struck the center where Jiang and the girl were standing, causing them to separate. Su, holding the girl's hand, explained that they could not be present at the beginning of the grief, as this might increase its intensity. Su and the girl fled to a remote location to escape the danger, leaving Jiang to watch. He wondered where the magical formations, potions, and weapons he planned to use were. Before Jiang could react, lightning struck him and he screamed while trembling. Concerned, the girl who had saved Jiang asked Su if he was okay. Unperturbed, Su folded her arms and slowly stood up. Despite the continuous lightning strikes, Jiang endured the misfortune without vocalizing pain. Instead, he maintained a calm demeanor. Suddenly, he sucked something into his mouth. Pure qi. It turned out that lightning had been extracting pure qi from him during the strikes. Jiang looked at himself, touched his body, and then exclaimed that he was fine even after being struck by lightning. Su contacted him telepathically, informing him that as the Lord of the world of sin, he had inherited the blessings of his ancestors and would be surrounded by the care and blessings of heaven. Su reflected that no one in the Jiang family had faced adversity for a very long time, accumulating a significant amount of good fortune. She encouraged him to achieve whatever he desired, as every lightning bolt would only make him stronger. Jiang joyfully exclaimed that the joy of challenging the heavens was boundless, as he raised his hands and shouted. At this point, the people affected by the corpse's qi woke up one after another and witnessed this scene. One of them noticed the noise and asked why there was thunder. Another man, lying on the ground, complained of a headache. When all the men stood up, one of them pointed at Jiang, accusing him of being struck for his misdeeds. Another man wondered what sin he had committed to be struck by so many lightning bolts. However, upon closer inspection, it seemed he was holding something in his hand, a metal sword. Jiang was raising the metal sword when lightning struck him. Jiang joyfully declared that the weapon had swallowed up the thunder of sorrow, exclaiming that his first significant piece of equipment had finally been born. Holding the weapon happily, he seemed oblivious to the fact that two demonic qi appeared and came out from the weapon. The two demonic qi emanating from the weapon revealed themselves to be two women, one with blonde hair, the other with white hair. The one with white hair called the blonde sister, and informed her that it was time for them to leave their legacy in the human world. When the two sisters stepped outside, they looked around. The gray-haired woman told the fair-haired woman that the human world was more prosperous than they'd been told, and the fair-haired woman asked why they were being looked at so strangely, as if their clothes looked out of place. On the other side of the street, people were discussing two ladies, claiming that they were cosplaying. A white-haired woman called Sister Jin Jiao and told her that people were still looking at them strangely. She wondered if they should hide their horns. The woman, Sister Jin Zhou, replied that if they did, people would know they possessed magic. They both turned around and realized they couldn't use their magic. If the Jiang family found out, they would be sent back to the Sin world. However, they faced another problem. If they didn't use magic, they wouldn't be able to buy what they wanted, especially the milk tea they were drooling over. At that moment, the salesperson told them to leave if they weren't going to order so the others behind them could buy what they wanted. They looked back and saw a crowd of people rushing toward the milk tea shop. The man rushed over and told the clerk he'd pay for them. He ordered 2 milk teas and treated them both to one. As they left the store, the man introduced himself as the owner. He said his name was Wu Chusen, emphasizing that they appeared to be broke. He told them that if they wanted to make some money, they should come to his store and work part-time to earn some extra cash. Wu Chusen gave them his business card. Ginzhou read out the name of the shop. Forgetful Bar. He informed them they needed 2 publicists and dancers. Jin Jiao told Ginzhou that it might be a wine shop or a banquet hall, while Ginzhou guessed that it might be the type of dancers that elegant people like. They both told Wu Chusen that since he had helped them, they would reciprocate, and asked him to accompany them to the place. Wu Chusen replied in the affirmative. After all the hardship, the sun rose, and Jiang Ya shook his head, trying to breathe in the fresh air. He grinned and remarked that it was good. Then he suddenly looked up at the sky and cried out joyfully, shouting that he'd never felt so relaxed before. Su told him he'd already overcome his physical woes, so it would be easy for him. The girl who'd saved him told him that, since he'd survived such a powerful ordeal, his future was limitless. Then suddenly, at a considerable distance from them, something brightly glowed. They all turned their gazes in that direction, seemingly realizing what it could be. Jiang Ya emphasized that the demon existed, and Su informed him that this would mark his first battle after his physique had improved through the trials. At a forgetful bar, several men begged for mercy from an imposing figure, none other than Jin Jiao. She beat the men mercilessly and furiously, wondering why they treated them so casually. Jinzhou informed them that while revealing clothing was acceptable, physical contact took things to another level. Jin Jiao expressed disappointment, noting that she thought the place was posh, yet they were ordered to interact with men. Wu Qiusen questioned their selectivity, reminding them that if they wanted to make money, they should not provoke any of his guests, as offending the customers would result in them being unable to leave his establishment. He hurried into the room with his men, warning them that if they didn't behave, there would be consequences, possibly death at his hands. The 2 girls huddled together, preparing to face any impending threat. Jin Jiao examined the weapons and noted that she had a feeling that they were very dangerous and required the use of their magical powers. Jin Jiao cried out passionately, declaring that she possessed her father's magnificent purple-red gourd and an intricate golden rope. Simultaneously, Ginzhou confirmed that she possessed her father's exquisite jade vase and ornate fan. The men, thinking the women were joking, burst into derisive laughter, questioning the use of what they considered ostentatious special effects. Wu Qiusen, with unwavering determination, pointed his pistol threateningly at them. He declared his intention to kill Jin Jiao first, maintaining his sinister laughter as he deftly pulled the trigger, sending a bullet her way. Jin Jiao, with a seriousness befitting the dangerous situation, quickly activated her supernatural abilities to intercept the incoming bullet. In the midst of this, she urgently ordered Ginzhou to disarm the gang and take charge of the situation. After answering affirmatively, Ginzhou used her exceptional powers to retrieve and confiscate all the weapons the gang members possessed. A bright light emanated from them, obscuring their vision. The men, disoriented and confused, surveyed their surroundings, perplexed by the sudden disappearance of their weapons. They expressed confusion and panic, wondering who could stop the formidable duo of Ginzhou and Jin Jiao. Wu Qiusen, feeling a surge of fear, tried to dissuade any harm that befell him, emphasizing his father's immense influence. However, his plea was abruptly interrupted. Jin Jiao shouted his name, momentarily capturing his attention, before, with his next breath, he found himself being inexorably drawn into her father's purple-red gourd. The other men stood gaping, shocked witnesses to his sudden disappearance into the mystical container. Holding a purple-red gourd in her hand, Jin Jiao argued that they must bear the consequences of their actions, emphasizing that the unfolding events were a direct result of their own misdeeds. The men, overcome with terror and fear, frantically fled the bar, their panicked voices repeating phrases like "ghost," as they begged anyone within earshot to come to their aid. Jin Jiao gazed thoughtfully at the rapidly moving figures, wondering if visiting the human world had been a wise decision. Ginjo assured her that it had indeed been beneficial, emphasizing that the malevolent forces constituted only a small minority. With a serious expression, Ginjo directed her gaze at Jin Jiao and proposed a radical idea to destroy the evil antagonist's depraved lair. A joyful smile graced Jin Jiao's face as she expressed her belief that their imagined human world shouldn't harbor such malice. She insisted that this place was in danger of being destroyed. Observing the frantic activity, Ginjo extended her right hand and summoned a bottle of jade oil. A stream of water subsequently gushed out. The meager stream from the jade bottle quickly turned into a flood, drowning the scrambling people trying to avoid it. Jin Jiao, with a serious expression, urged Ginjo to use her powers to destroy everything. Suddenly, a golden portal materialized, drawing in and dispersing the water. Astonished, both men questioned the unexpected occurrence in their minds, but an unknown voice informed them that their insolence was unjustified. Surprised, they turned to identify the speaker, and Jiang Ya emerged from the portal, calling them villains and demanding to reveal their identity. Concerned, they resisted revealing any information, advising him not to pressurize. Jinzhou urged Jin Jiao to take action, turning her purple-red gourd toward Jiang Ya and calling out his name. Jiang Ya, confused, recalled an image he had seen before, a sculpture depicting a man holding a gourd and looking in a certain direction. Subconsciously, Jiang Ya pointed at them, asking if they were the daughters of the Golden Horn King and the Silver Horn King. Horrified, Jin Jiao and Ginzhou asked how he knew their identities. Ginzhou thought that perhaps it wouldn't be a loss if he became the ruler of the world. Recognizing Jiang Ya's insight, they decided to join forces in a concerted effort to confront him, recognizing his potential superiority. Combining their forces, they launched a joint attack. Jiang Ya, unfazed, created a barrier of air, awaiting their attack. As the attack approached, Jiang Ya smirked, easily blocking and reflecting it with minimal effort. Using the new skill he acquired after the disaster, Thunderstrike, Jiang Ya redirected the attack towards the two women, electrocuting them. After pushing them into the portal of the world of sin, Jiang Ya ordered them to serve their punishment. Despite their protests, they were pulled into the portal. Jiang Ya, who was initially excited, was stunned to see the two women emerge from the portal again. Confusion gripped the two ladies as they wondered why they had returned. They assumed that, having been banished to the world of sin, escape would be impossible. Puzzled, Jiang Ya wondered why the sin world hadn't accepted them as he pondered this unexpected turn of events. The two sisters, sent back again, were delighted. Jin Jiao remarked that it seemed the Jiang family would no longer be able to control them. Jiang Ya, still confused, examined the symbol in his hand and wondered if the sin world had been destroyed, or if there was some kind of glitch in the sin world system. At this point, Su laughed at them and reproached them for their ignorance, revealing the reason for their return from the world of sin. The two ladies were overjoyed to learn from Su that their innocence was the reason. Su informed Jiang Ya that, except for him, innocent practitioners, whether demons or humans, were unable to enter the realm of sin. Su explained that the Golden Horn King and the Silver Horn King, having married their wives and born children in the world of sin, were locked away due to the lack of a governor in the world of sin. Therefore, they did not need to serve any punishment in this place. Su reported that this world of sins declared them innocent, forcing them to follow the rules because heaven had found them innocent. Both Jin Jiao and Jin Zhou were overjoyed when Su learned they had been recognized by the heavens. Jin Jiao enthusiastically declared that they could become accomplished practitioners. Su smiled and questioned their happiness, warning them that once they left the world of sin, they would not be able to return, which would mean the end of the house's existence. Jin Jiao and Ginzhou exchanged shocked glances. Jin Jiao remembered her father's words before they left. Both recalled their father's advice before leaving. Jin Jiao's father urged her to leave the world of sin so as not to suffer with it, while Jinzhou's father advised her to behave with restraint and flee if she encountered the monster monkey. Both departed happy. Both fathers, watching their daughters pass away, maintained that as long as their children thrived in the future, they would be able to fulfill their wishes. The girls became despondent, hugged each other, pretended to cry, and expressed a desire to return to their parents. Jiang Ya was thinking how pathetic they were when suddenly the two rushed towards him, each holding his hand, telling him that he could do whatever he wanted with them as long as they could see their parents. Jinzhou gave her purple gourd and golden rope, and Ginzhou offered her treasures, handing them over to Jiang Ya, asking him to facilitate their return. Jinzhou informed him that they no longer wished to practice. They simply wanted to be reunited with their parents. Jiang Ya thought he was hesitant. He had originally intended to create conditions for them to be helped, but now they were offering more than he had anticipated. Before Jiang Ya could speak, Su suddenly joined the conversation, informing them that returning was impossible. She continued by suggesting that they become Jiang Ya's secretaries and use their work to reduce their parents' sentences, allowing them to be released early. After thinking about it, Jiang Ya thought it was reasonable to let the two of them bring people to his shop to earn income. Alternatively, he could allow them to broadcast live, which would bring him closer to becoming a frontline host, anticipating Jinju's live demonstration. He then thought that perhaps extracting surplus value from demons was not the business of a big capitalist, imagining Jin Jiao singing in his mind. Jiang Ya quickly agreed. Then Su said that everything had been decided this way. She mentioned that there were many people there, so they had to return. Su activated her power and teleported them to Jiang Ya's house. Su helped them change and covered their demonic auras. The two girls looked at the house in front of them and wondered if they would live there from now on. That way no one would know they were monsters. She dressed Jin Jiao in office worker clothes and Gin Zhou in a high school uniform. Jiang Ya blushed as blood began to flow from his nose. He told Su to change her clothes. Su asked him if this was what all the men on the internet liked to see. Su changed into her maid clothes while Jiang Ya was complaining in her mind. Jiang Ya blushed and felt shy. He thought what they were both wearing was too much. As the plane flew over Jiang Ya's house, a woman sitting in the passenger seat, a glass of wine in her hand, sensed something and looked out. It was the aura of two pure-blooded demons. She looked out the window, licking her lips, declaring that she could hunt for demon pills again. Apparently, this wasn't her first hunt for the so-called demon pill. In Jiang Ya's room, he stood in front of the mirror with the Ginzhou jade vase and cast several magic spells to activate the vase. Jiang Ya looked at the jade vase expectantly as it activated, but was disappointed when only a small sip of water came out. As the scene unfolded in the cozy living room, Jiang Ya turned his attention away from the TV show. Jinzhou, Jin, and Su were voraciously watching together. A feeling of disappointment and frustration welled up within him as he frankly informed Jinzhou that the supposedly magical weapon at his disposal was, in fact, completely useless. Seeking clarity, Jiang Ya approached the trio and asked why Ginzhou could successfully wield the magical weapon, despite being unable to do so. His skepticism persisted as he questioned the authenticity of the item, wondering if it was a fake, as its powers seemed elusive to him. Meanwhile, Ginzhou, Jin, and Su remained engrossed in the narrative unfolding on television, seemingly disconnected from Jiang Ya's growing apprehension. Su, not turning away from the captivating television show, casually raised 2 fingers, activating the jade vase. A sudden stream of water gushed from the vase, catching Jiang Ya off guard and playfully splashing his face. Recovering from the unexpected dousing, Jiang Ya quickly regained his composure. Trying to refocus their attention, he positioned himself to block their gaze and delivered a firm message. They were to impart the necessary knowledge of magical weapons unless he changed his mind about helping them. Responding to Jiang Ya's request for guidance, Ginzhou tossed a book toward him. Jiang Ya, with dexterous reflexes, caught it and began flipping through its pages. Su took on the role of instructor, explaining that to master a magical weapon, one must refine it into one's own natal magical weapon, or refine a demonic pill similar to the demon clan's practices, ultimately relying on the resonance between the two. Each turned page revealed more information, and Jiang Ya absorbed Su's instructions with growing interest. Su delved into the complex process, emphasizing that perfecting a natal magical weapon relies on receiving blessings from runes and magical formations. She explained that the fundamental step was carefully sealing the main inscription. Contemplating the inscriptions before him, Jiang Ya acknowledged his current inability to accomplish such a task. Responding to this admission, Su advised him to find Yufei in the city, informing him that Yufei was waiting for the Tiangxin sect disciples to discreetly deal with the consequences of their efforts. On the outskirts of town, a lifeless corpse lay on the ground. A horrific sight that sent shivers down the spine. Empty eye sockets and a wide-open mouth painted a grim picture, reminiscent of an elderly figure whose life force had been inexplicably drained. Observing the disturbing scene, a woman stood near the corpse, and a man, apparently investigating, stated that the body bore traces of a demonic aura. Despite its demonic nature, the body retained the appearance of an ordinary human. A woman standing on the opposite side expressed her curiosity about the mysterious events unfolding in the city. Interestingly, the woman standing next to the corpse was none other than the mysterious figure who had been on board the plane flying over Jiang Ya's residence. She ominously mused that even in its desiccated state, the residual demon qi within the corpse still had the potential to rejuvenate them, and a disturbing smile played on her lips. As they continued discussing the strange situation, the surrounding sounds were interrupted by the distant rumble of a motorcycle engine. Their attention focused on the source, a young man riding slowly, lost in contemplation. Something about him piqued their interest, drawing them to the unfolding scenario. Ignoring the secret gaze, Jiang continued his journey to the city on his motorcycle, mentally reciting the items needed to complete the task at hand. The red-haired woman stared at Jiang with a look of delight and shared her revelation with her companion. She confidently declared that the demonic qi they sensed in the corpse undoubtedly emanated from none other than Jiang himself, deepening the mystery surrounding him. Jiang was pondering which technique to choose, immersed in a critical decision, when suddenly an ominous feeling overwhelmed him. Reacting quickly, he jumped off the motorcycle, narrowly avoiding an invisible threat. His deft evasion proved successful. A huge rock crashed down, crushing his motorcycle. Unharmed, Jiang found himself in a nearby clearing, the remains of his bike testifying to the danger he had narrowly escaped. The red-haired woman and the bald man walked up and stopped in front of Jiang. The bald man acknowledged Jiang's vigilance, while the red-haired woman taunted him, urging him to summon another monster and meet a painless death. Thinking about the mention of another demon, Jiang speculated if it could be Jin Jiao, hiding her aura despite her suppression. Rising from his landing, Jiang lamented that Su had deceived him again. The bald man demanded information, hinting at a way to extract the truth from him. Before he could move forward, the red-haired lady intervened, announcing her intention to take charge by provocatively fiddling with the buttons on her chest. Approaching Jiang, she provocatively unbuttoned her shirt, revealing her bra. She hinted that Jiang consent would lead to a painless death, confident in the charm of her own charm. Jiang closed his eyes and gestured for her not to continue, resisting the seductive tactics. Peering through the gap in his fingers, Jiang noticed a purple orb hanging from the red-haired woman's chest. She, in turn, reveled in her supposed irresistibility. In the space filled with enchantments, Jiang stood resolutely as the red-haired woman emphasized the significance of his demonic pill to their strength. To Jiang surprise, the red-haired lady revealed illusory tales, 6 in total, reveling in the success of her seductive trap. The red-haired lady had a triumphant smile on her face, a fox image appearing on her forehead as she rhetorically wondered who could resist the temptation of the demon fox pill. She gleefully expressed her desire to witness the attractiveness of Jiang's demonic pill, playfully extending her foxtails towards him. Unperturbed, Jiang, now with clear and focused eyes, watched intently as the foxtails closed around him. To the red-haired woman's shock, she found no demon pill in Jiang's body. After accusing him of deception, she realized he didn't have such a pill. Still reeling from the revelation, she clasped her now empty hand, which had once held the demon fox pill. Jiang moved swiftly forward, snatched the pill, and retreated, leaving the red-haired woman stunned by the unexpected turn of events. Mockingly holding the demon fox pill in his hand, Jiang claimed that he had never lied. She was trapped in her own delusions. Jiang mockingly remarked that women might influence the speed at which he played games, but real men were immune to such temptations. The red-haired woman's expression darkened as she realized Jiang's immunity to her trap. Seeing the pill in Jiang's hand, the red-haired woman asked how he could have gotten hold of the monster's demonic pill, finding it impossible. Jiang corrected her, saying there was no trace of sin in the energy extracted from the pill. He accused her of using dark magic to drain the power of innocent demons for the sake of power, calling her actions madness. Faced with the loss of her demonic pill, Jiang doubted she would persist in her malicious actions. However, she leaped back, distancing herself and declaring that all demons were monsters meant to support cultivation, devoid of any inherent kindness. With a mocking laugh, she unwrapped a multitude of demonic tablets, asking Jiang if he had ever seen such a vast collection of these sinister artifacts. Confidently declaring that victory was within their grasp, she mocked the inevitable defeat that awaited him. Undeterred by the ineffectiveness of the fox demon pill, she quickly moved on to another, extracting the rabbit demon pill and assimilating its essence into herself. Having announced a pact with her comrade to join forces in the coming battle, she received an affirmative response. Jiang, faced with this mutated duo reminiscent of the famous turtle and rabbit, expressed his disdain, finding the scenario boring as he rushed towards the formidable opponents. With a mighty leap, he struck the turtle man with his weapon, but the tenacious opponent pushed him away with force. Stunned by the unexpected failure of his attack, Jiang stood there in bewilderment, wondering why his weapon was ineffective against the turtle man's defense. Before he could formulate a response to the impending threat, a sudden kick from the red-haired woman sent him reeling, followed by her decisive statement calling him to hell. Falling backward, Jiang's opponent basked in her obvious advantage, urging her comrade to seize the moment and secure victory. However, their elation was abruptly interrupted by an unexpected shock. A powerful force struck the bald turtle man, eliciting a cry of pain. Although the scales in his hand partially cushioned the blow, he survived the blow without serious injury. The revelation unfolded when something materialized in Jiang Ya's hand. Proudly displaying a carving knife, he admitted he had almost forgotten about this formidable weapon and stood up resolutely, examining it closely. Advancing towards his opponents, Jiang Ya accused them of using innocent demons as shields, claiming that they had already overcome the limitations of his initial attack. Faced with the need to refine his tactics on the spot, he cast a spell, casting a magical incantation and releasing an enchanting substance onto his carving knife. The numbers 856 lengthened as the narrative unfolded, revealing a story in which the protagonist recalled secret knowledge from a book, emphasizing the importance of blood in the purification process for those with a completely purified body. This memory became imprinted in his memory. In a rush, the protagonist decided to use a humble kitchen knife against formidable opponents. With determination, he pointed the blade at them and introduced himself as Jiang Ya, a simple man with newfound aspirations. A sense of accomplishment filled Jiang Ya as he looked at his opponents. Using a kitchen knife as an unlikely symbol, he proudly proclaimed his status as a swordsman, confidently pointing his blade at them. The turtle man tending to his wounded arm and the red-haired woman, both astonished, shared their realization in unison. Jiang Ya was holding a magical weapon. The kitchen knife, now soaked in his purified blood, had become a powerful tool. The red-haired woman, still struggling with disbelief, pondered the impossibility of Jiang Ya's rapid cultivation. As the tension mounted, she clenched her fist in despair, while Jiang Ya braced himself for the coming confrontation. Jiang Ya, wasting no time, quickly advanced toward his opponents. Recognizing the general principles of swordsmanship, he selected a skill he was familiar with and struck at the turtle man's vulnerable neck. The force of Jiang Ya's attack forced his opponents to cover their faces. The bald turtle man, unable to withstand the onslaught, fell uncontrollably, causing his demonic pill to fly out. As he approached the fallen demon pill, Jiang Ya reflected on their plight. Despite a twinge of pity, he decided not to show mercy, knowing they were exploiting others for their own gain. The red-haired woman, undeterred, approached the fallen bald man. Offering him a pill, she spoke of the urgent need to win the upcoming battle, revealing the pill's purpose and advising him to use the appropriate trick. Following her instructions, the bald man swallowed the demonic pills, absorbing their power into his body in preparation for the escalating conflict. In a remote small town, a purple-headed girl, the valiant savior of Jiang Ya, found herself among a gathering of elders. These venerable figures, participating in the ritual circulation of mystical powers, earned the purple-headed girl's praise. The elders, however, were stunned, their amazement palpable as they questioned the purple-headed girl about the mysterious corpse key she had mentioned earlier. Startled, the purple-headed girl looked up to the sky, where a radiant and ominous purple death chi rose, casting an eerie glow upon the heavens. Showing pride, the red-haired woman informed Jiang Ya that their pursuit of knowledge had led them to spend their entire lives mastering the complex fusion sorcery spell. The bald man, reflecting a sense of honor and determination, shouted at Jiang Ya. He declared his willingness to accept death under the influence of the trick they had diligently practiced over a long period, extending his hands in a welcoming gesture. An imperturbable Jiang Ya, his expression blank, casually identified this version of the Shanzhai Road of Corpses. While he lamented the predictability of the villain's thoughts, he recognized the striking similarity in their intentions. As the bald man launched his attack, Jiang Ya, maintaining his composure, reminded him that he shouldn't blame himself for using this technique. The symbol in Jiang Ya's hand glowed as he commanded the bald man to depart for the world of sin. With a deft movement, Jiang Ya opened a portal to the world of sins, quickly trapping the bald man, not giving him a chance to resist. With a mocking smile, Jiang Ya turned his attention to the red-haired woman, who, realizing her vulnerability, tried to flee. Aware of her predicament, she knew she couldn't face him head-on. Chasing after her without hesitation, Jiang Ya grabbed her rabbit ear, questioning her futile attempt to escape and whether she believed she could elude him. At that very moment, 3 people landed behind Jiang Ya, prompting him to glance back in silent question. They were 3 elders, accompanied by a purple-headed girl. Their hasty arrival had witnessed the ominous purple death chi, and they offered respectful greetings, calling Jiang Ya an expert. Acknowledging his formidable presence, the elders expressed their gratitude for his intervention, describing him as a great man who had effortlessly dispelled the evil forces. The elders assured Jiang Ya that the red-haired woman would no longer pose a threat as they were sent by the heart of heaven to seal her away. When the purple-headed girl descended from the sky, eager to share her insights, the elder intervened, pinning her head down. They ordered her to show respect to Jiang Ya, addressing him not as an expert, but as an elder. While trying to impart her knowledge, the purple-headed girl was interrupted when the elder bowed to the spot where Jiang Ya stood, emphasizing the need for respect. The elders bowed to Jiang Ya in unison, expressing their gratitude as benefactors and their hope for his guidance. Jiang Ya, attempting to clarify the misunderstanding, was silenced by their insistence that he was their elder. Frustrated, Jiang Ya tried to explain this misconception, but the disgruntled elders concluded that their sect had refused and accepted the blame for their supposed incompetence. Seeing the elders' gloomy state, Jiang felt a surge of compassion and assured them he had valuable advice to offer. The purple-haired girl, finding the situation amusing, held her uncle's robe and laughed playfully. Inwardly lamenting the need to continue acting like an elder, Jiang admitted that since Yu Fei knew his true identity, maintaining this charade would not be a problem. Upon reaching the sect, Jiang casually remarked on Elder Chen's well-being within the sect while engaging in polite small talk. Sensing the right time, Jiang mentioned that it was getting late, and he needed to return home. In response, Elder Chen graciously offered his assistance, expressing his willingness to assist whenever Jiang needed help. Initially hesitant to accept the offer, Jiang changed his mind, realizing that he really needed help acquiring specific items. Knowing his financial difficulties, Jiang sought to use the sect's resources to purchase materials, hoping that they would provide the necessary materials. Presenting Elder Chen with a compiled list of purification materials, Jiang broached the subject. However, the elder's laughter echoed through the air as he scanned the extensive list, finding it overly demanding. Elder Chen, carefully examining the materials, acknowledged the sect's ability to provide most essentials. However, he acknowledged that some materials were exceptionally rare and difficult to obtain. Offering further information, Elder Chen explained that while the sect might have obtained some materials, others, while not necessarily precious, were so rare that their presence in the Xijing antique market remained uncertain. Jiang, considering his options, reached into his pocket, realizing this might be an opportune moment to visit Xijing again. In response, Elder Chen, trying to live up to expectations, pointed out the sect's financial limitations. Suddenly remembering Yu Fei's connection with Xijing University, Elder Chen suggested that she could guide Jiang on his return to Xijing, especially since the academic semester was about to begin soon. Worried that he might offend Jiang Ya, Elder Chen was pleasantly surprised when Jiang, having eased the tension, enthusiastically announced his decision to return to Xijing. Seizing the opportunity, Jiang announced his intention to investigate the circumstances that led to his removal from Xijing University, which became a turning point in his career. Jiang Ya reasoned that if he were to advance in cultivation and achieve greater power, he could no longer confine himself to the confines of a small town. In the wider regions, the allure of vast resources awaited him, and he considered mere conspiracies insignificant on his path to cultivation. Expressing his decision to Elder Chen, Jiang Ya urged him to quickly prepare the necessary materials, signaling his imminent departure for the country of Xijing. With a casual wave of his hand, he departed, leaving the journey ahead unfolding before him. A week later, Jiang Ya arrived in Xijing, his thoughts lingering as he approached Xijing University. While the prospect of returning to the university didn't faze him, the prospect of dealing with certain annoying people dampened his enthusiasm. Passing by his fellow students on his way to university, Jiang Ya caught the eye of one of them, who was doing physical exercise. A look of suspicion crossed the observer's face, causing him to recognize Jiang Ya. A sudden realization dawned on the viewer, leading to the exclamation that Jiang Ya had indeed returned. Rushing forward, the observer pointed at Jiang Ya with mockingly exaggerated surprise, loudly declaring his presence in the school. The revelation sparked rumors among other university students, with one alleging that Jiang Ya had cheated in an esports game, arguing that anyone guilty of such acts had no right to return to school. The boy who had loudly announced Jiang Ya's presence walked up to him, pointed his finger accusingly, and asked why he had returned, calling him a disgrace to the university. Unperturbed, Jiang Ya retorted, arguing that the boy would have joined the conversation if it had been his turn to speak. Ignoring Jiang Ya's words, the boy knocked off his cap, declaring that Jiang Ya was no longer a student but a wandering outsider, urging him to leave or face the guard's intervention. Noticing the boy's boldness, Jiang Ya responded with a meaningful look, silently asking if he was trying to conduct an impromptu training session on how to properly handle such situations. The tension in the air grew as both Jiang Ya and the boy remained steadfast, unwilling to give in or retreat from their positions. In the midst of this confrontation, 3 security guards quickly approached the scene, their faces a mixture of concern and determination. Seeking to defuse the escalating conflict, they sought explanations and clarifications, ready to intervene if necessary. The guards' presence added authority to the scene, potentially facilitating conflict resolution. Taking advantage of the opportunity, the boy accused Jiang of trespassing and impersonating a student. He urged the guards to detain Jiang immediately. Ignoring the excitement, Jiang looked away, expressing disinterest in solving the boy's petty problems. Jiang, carefully holding the talisman behind his back, contemptuously informed the boy that if he wanted a confrontation, he should initiate it himself. The unflappable, determined boy fervently pleaded with the guards to strengthen the university's security and expel Jiang. The guards moved decisively toward Jiang, ready to take action. With a smug expression, Jiang casually tossed the talisman over his shoulder, a sly gesture aimed at the unsuspecting boy. To his great surprise, Jiang found himself trapped by the watchful guards, his confused gaze fixed on them. This unexpected turn of events heightened the tension of the situation. The boy pointed at Jiang, claiming that someone who got into the university solely through games had no place within its walls. He suddenly responded with a loud slap in Jiang's face, determined to prevent him from gaining access. This sudden act of defiance added a dramatic twist to the unfolding confrontation, heightening the tension between them. Ignoring the boy's fervent protests, Jiang defiantly sank his teeth into his arm, a shocking act that left him confused and stunned. The unexpected bite created an atmosphere of surprise and confusion, casting a shadow over the meeting. The enraged boy bit Jiang in response, and a strange struggle ensued in which both seemed to succumb to the antics of the mad dog. They both fought with each other, biting each other angrily like a mad dog. A student, puzzled by the spectacle, asked why Minister Lu of the Student Association was involved in a fight with a dog. A classmate enlightened her, explaining that it wasn't just a fight, but an ongoing altercation with the dog. As the commotion unfolded in the courtyard, the students present couldn't resist capturing the bizarre spectacle on their cell phones. Minister Lu, unexpectedly caught in a fight with a dog, unwittingly found himself the center of attention. Little did he know, Jiang had been skillfully manipulating his perception, convincing him that his canine opponent was actually a reflection of himself throughout the entire ordeal. Laughter echoed through the crowd as Minister Lu continued his feudal confrontation with the dog. Amidst the mirth, Jiang was amused by Lu's predicament and reflected on how he had no authority to decide whether Lu should enter the school premises. It was a moment of both amusement and reflection on the power dynamics at play. A sudden shift in the atmosphere engulfed Minister Lu and the guards as realization dawned on them. Their once oblivious expressions turned to one of questioning and confusion. Meanwhile, the persistent dog continued to hold Lu's leg, creating a surreal and tense scene. Mutual confusion filled the air as Lu and the guards exchanged glances. The situation had taken an unexpected turn, and their gazes met with a shared sense of confusion. The dog's continued aggression added an element of urgency to the unfolding drama. Trying to make sense of the chaos, Lu pointed at the dog, demanding answers from the puzzled guards. He was searching for information about Jiang's whereabouts and questioning the logic of detaining a seemingly ordinary dog. The guards, taken aback, struggled to provide coherent explanations. Lu's gaze slid toward the nearest alley, revealing a startling discovery. It wasn't just a lone dog. Instead, a menacing pack of dogs, their crimson eyes gleaming with malice, was rapidly approaching them. The situation was escalating, and fear gripped Lu and the guards. Panic ensued as Lu and the guards, realizing the imminent threat, fled from the advancing pack of enraged dogs. The courtyard, once filled with the sounds of laughter, now echoed with the hurried footsteps of those fleeing the canine attack's wrath. Meanwhile, as Jiang attempted to slip out unnoticed, a mysterious figure intervened, placing a hand on his shoulder. Turning around, Jiang encountered Yufei, who asked if he was looking for anyone. The unexpected encounter added a layer of intrigue to the unfolding events. Jiang, surprised by Yufei's intervention, revealed his connection to the university. Yufei, connecting the dots, suggested that Jiang might be the man rumored to be at the center of the conversation. Their interaction hinted at a deeper narrative, shrouded in mystery and potential intrigue. Urgency and secrecy intertwined as Jiang, covering her mouth with his hand, urged Yufei to lower her voice. He vehemently protested his innocence, insisting they move to a more private setting to discuss matters further. Their departure raised eyebrows, fueling speculation among the intrigued students. Escaping the crowd, Jiang and Yufei headed toward the university, leaving a trail of speculation and gossip in their wake. The students, captivated by the unfolding drama, couldn't help but discuss the mysterious connection between the two figures and the events that had transpired in the courtyard. Lu's gaze pierced the space where Yufei and Jiang had disappeared, his frustration simmering beneath the surface. His face was set in resolve, and he silently vowed to expel Jiang from campus. the intensity of his emotions a reflection of the brewing conflict. In class, Jiang sat at his desk, engrossed in his textbook. Meanwhile, rumors circulated among his peers about his prolonged absences and sudden returns, all while avoiding a repeat grade. A classmate's sudden exclamation shattered the hushed atmosphere. The announcement of Master Li's presence brought a momentary silence to the room as the students, acutely aware of the potential consequences, ceased their discussions. Jiang, noticing the palpable uneasiness, looked up and noticed the discomfort of being surrounded by classmates who seemed to harbor a clear fear of Teacher Li. Teacher Li's appearance officially ended the anticipatory silence. She informed the class that she would immediately resume her role as instructor next year. Looking at Jiang, Teacher Li expressed surprise that she hadn't seen him since last year, questioning his admission to this major. Jiang spoke about his suspension from classes last year and his recent return to school. He explained that he had independently studied the previous year's coursework and passed the mid-semester visa exam. Teacher Li approached him and asked if his absence meant she was ineffective as a teacher, given that he preferred to study independently at home rather than attend classes. Leaning over, she placed her hands on Jiang's desk, prompting him to gently acknowledge the importance of teachers in the learning process. Then Teacher Li placed the exam paper on Jiang's desk, asking him to formulate answers to the 5 core multiple-choice questions from last year's exam. The ultimatum hung in the air, emphasizing that his right to participate in the class was at stake. Studying the paper in front of him, Jiang picked it up with a mixture of disappointment and resignation. Deep down, he lamented the lack of deception in the world of mathematics, and this feeling echoed in his thoughts, highlighting the challenges ahead. In response to the challenge, Teacher Li handed Jiang a textbook, emphasizing that it contained the original questions from last year. She also asked if he had taken the time to review its contents. Accepting the textbook, Jiang mentally expressed his gratitude for its opportune timing. Now that it was in his hands, he immediately delved into its pages, ready to confront the intellectual challenges it contained. Returning the book to Master Li after his brief examination, Jiang confidently declared that he had not only read it, but also memorized its contents. Master Li cautioned him against treating mathematics like linguistics, emphasizing that rote memorization was unnecessary. Ignoring her advice, Jiang continued to ignore her advice, starting to read out the answers to the questions with unwavering confidence. The class, previously immersed in a hushed atmosphere, suddenly fell into a collective state of amazement. Every student's expression was one of disbelief, but Jiang, undeterred, continued reciting his answers. Even Teacher Li, usually reserved, found himself gaping in amazement at this unexpected display of skill. The students in the class, stunned by Jiang's unexpected recitation, quickly looked through their textbooks, trying to verify the accuracy of the information he had shared. The air in the classroom was thick with curiosity and distrust. Having finished his recitation, Jiang, undeterred, posed a pointed question to Teacher Li, questioning her right to teach the class. The question hung in the air, awaiting the teacher's answer. Teacher Li, maintaining a calm demeanor, feigned nonchalance in the face of Jiang's challenge. Closing the textbook, she casually remarked that what he'd read had only scratched the surface. Allowing him to continue attending class, she sternly warned him to adhere to the rules, emphasizing the severe consequences for any violations. With a thoughtful expression, Master Li turned away and walked to the blackboard, pondering the subtleties of the mind-body connection. She recognized the benefits of cultivating the body, realizing that Lao Su Cheng's teachings had value beyond what she had initially perceived. Outside the classroom, Minister Lu, watching this scene with growing anger, cast a disdainful glance at Jiang. Silently cursing him in his mind, the minister's displeasure hinted at a deeper conflict simmering beneath the surface. Minister Lu's silent simmering was suddenly interrupted by someone placing a hand on his shoulder, asking for directions to Jing Street. Initially irritated, he turned back and found himself confronted by a beautiful first-year university student seeking help navigating the unfamiliar surroundings. When the beauty introduced herself as Jiang Mei, a university freshman, Minister Lu's irritation turned to fascination with her charm. In response to her request for directions, he kindly offered to walk her to Jing Street. Lu, now captivated by Jiang Mei's beauty, assured her that accompanying her would be no problem. They walked together, engaging in conversation, until Lu asked her name and department. Turning to the girl, Lu walked alongside Jiang Mei, striking up a conversation to learn more about her. He asked her name and what department she belonged to, attempting to start a friendly banter. Jiang Mei revealed that her name was Jiang Mei, which prompted Minister Lu to playfully remark that people with the surname Jiang were generally good, accompanied by a hint of admiration. Smiling happily, Jiang Mei turned her attention to Jiang Ya's class, thinking about something in her mind. Looking directly at Jiang Ya's location, she silently declared in her heart that she had found him, suggesting a potential connection or interest. Meanwhile, Jiang Ya, who had just left campus, expressed his complaints about his continued difficulties with mathematics despite the improvement of his mental abilities. Walking along the busy street, Jiang Ya considered the best course of action, deciding to memorize more books first. Intending to eat first and then engage in serious business with Yu Fei, he navigated the bustling atmosphere of the city. As he walked down an alley, he overheard a discussion among men. Their conversation centered around a schoolgirl. The tone and topic of their conversation piqued Jiang Ya's interest as he continued walking through the streets. He soon encountered a disturbing scene where a group of gangs were chasing a student, calling her to join them with ominous cries for help. Unwilling to tolerate such a crime unfolding before him, Jiang Ya stepped into the alley and confronted the criminals. He began to doubt their courage in committing such acts under his watchful eye. Witnessing Jiang Ya's intervention, the frightened girl managed to break free from the gang's clutches and ran to him, seeking refuge. In a moment of despair, she hugged him tightly, begging for help and safety. Jiang Ya, stunned by the unexpected embrace, looked down at the crying girl who clung to him. Her eyes were full of fear as she pleaded for help, describing the gangs as incredibly terrifying. Still hugging him, she tearfully asked if he would help her eyes reflecting a mixture of vulnerability and hope. Jiang Ya, slightly excited by the sudden closeness, assured her that he would indeed help. He gently gestured toward the gangs, making it clear he would return once he had dealt with them. The gang stood in stunned silence as they watched Jiang Ya confidently approach them, ready to counter their threatening behavior. Jiang Ya quickly raised his hand, clenching his fist and aiming it at the gang leader. However, before his fist could make contact, the gang leader flipped over, falling to the ground and loudly declaring that Jiang Ya had used excessive force. Taken aback by the gang leader's theatrical reaction, Jiang Ya turned to him and declared that he hadn't even laid a fist on him. Meanwhile, Jiang Mei looked on disapprovingly at the gang leader's antics. Undeterred, the gang leader stood up and praised Jiang Ya's leadership style, while one of his members suggested that they leave the scene. Startled by the suggestion of escape, Jiang Ya quickly leaped across, blocking their path. However, he failed to anticipate how the girl next to him managed to approach after his leap. Jiang Ya deliberately kicked the ground hard, causing it to split in two, adding an element of surprise and intimidation. The gang leader, now frightened, tried to maintain a facade of fearlessness. Admitting defeat, the gang leader begged Jiang Mei to let them pass, acknowledging the futility of their actions. Another gang member acknowledged the strength of Jiang Ya and Jiang Mei, advising them to refrain from further confrontation with such formidable opponents. Puzzled by the turn of events, Jiang Ya doubted Jiang Mei's intentions, prompting her to shrug and lament her poor acting skills. Jiang Ya's questioning was interrupted when Jiang Mei hugged him and affectionately called him Brother Jiang, bringing a familial dynamic to their relationship. This unexpected twist adds a touch of humor and warmth to the scene. With a mischievous glint in her eyes, Jiang Mei praised Jiang Ya for his strength, playfully alluding to the typical hero-beauty dynamic in stories. However, Jiang Ya found his attention drawn to the 3 dots on her chest, a detail that evoked familiar memories. The realization came to Jiang Ya when he remembered that the only person who had ever called him Brother Jiang was the little girl he played with as a child. An excited Jiang Ya exclaimed that she really was Jiang Mei, his long-lost cousin, and asked if she was really the same person from his past. Jiang Mei confirmed their family connection, explaining that they were separated by 3 generations. She explained that her decision to apply to Xijing University was solely for the sake of reuniting with him. Jiang Ya, still reeling from the unexpected encounter, commented on Jiang Mei's penchant for playing practical jokes, noting that it hadn't changed in 10 years. Leaning close to Jiang Ya's ear, Jiang Mei dropped a bombshell, revealing that she had been investigating him for a year and had already uncovered clues about the incident that occurred last year. Shock etched itself across Jiang Ya's face, and his eyes widened as he absorbed this revelation. This unexpected twist adds intrigue and sets the stage for the unfolding narrative.